No, I'm just breaking balls.
All right.
All right.
You need some help with my last name?
Yeah, what is it?
Vellutato.
Vellutato. I was going to say Valtudo, so I'd been way wrong.
That would have been way better.
Vellutato. And I always call you Pantera Mike. Do you want me to use your last name?
Mike's fine.
How do you
That's
say your
everybody
last name?
McColgan.
McColgan. Yep. I would have fucked that one up, too. I'm already going to fuck Fran's up. What was it again?
Call me Franny Pizza.
Franny Pizza. Hey, Pantera Mike and Franny Pizza. We're going to get it this time. You ready?
Are you ready?
I'm fucking ready.
Are we editing this out or not?
It might
right.
be in there somewhere.
Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Offshore Live number 15 with Pantera Mike and Franny Pizza. What's going on, boys?
How you guys doing, man? Thanks for having us here.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming up. Pantera Mike making a trip from Maryland.
Yeah,
Thank you,
a little
sir.
bit of a ride.
Appreciate that.
Very welcome.
But it's good to have the 2020 World Champions in the house.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That's awesome, man. It's awesome. And we're getting ready. Kind of cool. Ironic timing to be going back to Morehead City in a couple weeks. The only race of 2020.
Hey,
Third
it
race
was
there.
good. It was good to us, so we'll take it.
Yeah, and I know Jeff and DJ and the whole staff down there got one hell of an event ready to rock and roll for everybody. It's going to be, status quo of last year. They made some small fixes, but just what a good time Morehead City is. Just an awesome place.
Odd shaped track. That's good. I like it. It's fast.
It's cool. What do you think of that with the dog legs?
Other than the pipes on the right hand side. Oh, look at that pipe! Don't get near that thing. I liked it.
Well, you only hit it once.
Yeah, you approach it as hard as you want to hit it. You're right.
But so you had a good, well, whatever you want to call last year. It was a short year, but
3 races.
And then this year, you guys been having some bad luck and some good skill, man. Run me through the beginning of this year, or maybe not.
Bad luck. That's my fault. Now you're gonna have Mike yelling at me.
Nah, I won't do any yelling. No, the season started off really good, to be honest with you. Cocoa Beach went down, kind of game plan. Went through the boat over the winter, didn't change. Once the bracket boat's competitive, you really don't mess with it too much, until you start getting beat. But went down there with the same kind of package and went out there. And we knew Jesse and Rob, they bought the new boat, the new Joker, and knew they were going to be good. And they kept us honest. But it was rough, we run pretty good in that.
It seems like you guys kind of own the rough water courses lately. Is that a lot of off-season setup time, balancing the boat, getting it all set up for the rough, or is that mentality?
My opinion, mentality. He might have a different opinion, so you get that next. In my opinion, it's mentality because the boat is a good boat, so I don't want to take that away from it. But if you go out confident that the boat's going to do what it needs to do, well, then we're just doing what it's supposed to do, if that makes sense. Fran might have a total different opinion.
No, I agree with him 100%. I mean, the first time we went out, I used to think it was right to have the nose skied in the air, and the way he set it up and changed some stuff and kind of beat into my head a little bit, it's a lot safer, more conservative, and I feel much more relaxed knowing that going forward, you're not going to get hurt.
Well, and that's something that almost every great throttleman has said to me over the years. Everybody started out with that loose kind of high-flying mentality and then realized it's a lot better to be smoother.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Smooth's fast. And it's funny because you look at what we do and nothing about it is smooth. But if you can make it smooth, it's fast.
Oh, yeah.
I know I've tried to chase you guys down. It ain't easy.
I was worried when you were out there, to be honest. I was like, oh, God, we're going to lose this. We're going to get our asses kicked.
Oh, we had a good time, man. That was
Sure.
And funny enough, when we ran it together in Point Pleasant, what was that, 2 years ago, the 50th?
Yep, 19, I believe.
Yep. And I ran with Mike Bocchino in the You Gun Learn Martini.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew, he had an inkling that the bottom was coming apart. I don't know all the ins and outs of it. I know he knew the bottom was having issues. It had a big hook in it, and he knew there was a soft spot. So about 2 laps into that race, he pulled out of it, and we went down to Englewood the end of that year and ran the boat again together, and that's when the bottom actually came apart. It was only 10 minutes into that race, so he was right. I mean, he was right for doing what he did. But I would love to try that again with you guys, man. The Class 6 is coming along, like, amazing this year. I mean, you got you guys who have become the mainstay. Like, every race I go to, everybody wants to race you guys. And in the same breath, they turn around and tell me that you guys are trying everything you can to help them. Sure. I won't mention names, but I had the two gentlemen that run the lime green boat in Class 6 come up to me and tell me, man, all I want to do is beat them, and they keep trying to tell me how. Like,
Yeah.
is that, and it's funny because I think I've been right where you guys are. Is competition your what you're looking for right now? Are you looking for guys to fill the ranks and come after you?
I mean, how do you answer that safely without...
Fuck safely.
Okay. Yeah, we want some competition. We want people to push us. I like that drive. I like that push. I like that on the edge adrenaline feeling.
Right.
And sometimes, yeah, our class has a lot to do with, like, the start of the race, and it's like he's yelling at me, and I'm like, I got it. And sometimes he's trying to talk to me, and I'm not answering. It's like you're in that zone. And by the time the race is over, it's like I get out. It's like I need something to eat.
Yeah.
I need a lot of hamburgers, a pizza, or food because my adrenaline is like through the roof. And recently, we had this talk the other night. It's like starting to like wear me a little bit. It's like, all right, we got the beginning. Where's everybody at? Because it's rough. And some people don't want to push that hard. Maybe they're afraid of breaking the boat. But, I mean, I don't know. I like it. I like the challenge.
Well,
I really do.
You went exactly where I was going to go with it. It's not so much that I want to show up to every race and win every race. That's what we all want to do.
Sure.
Right? But there's something special about somebody chewing on your transom. And so that brings me back to, like, Lotto, right, with you and Jesse and Rob running so tight there. I mean, you guys were pulling lines that – you started the race on the pillows, and it just progressively got more and more aggressive as the race went on. And to me, it showed the heart of your team. I know you guys broke out there, but
in which lap?
I don't know.
Second.
Right. So the whole rest of the race was pretty clean. And watching that race, it gives me the chills because I was watching you come into the damn turn, and Mike, you were holding like that lane 2 or 3 line and trying to just float it, keep as much speed as you could, but also not leave the door open. And forgive me, I don't know. Jesse throttles and Rob drives?
Other way around.
Other way around. Okay, Rob throttles and Jesse drives.
We were trying to get inside of them, and it's funny. We just like you, you got all this podcast equipment. We have so much money in GoPros that almost never work at the race, and I would give a lot of things that I have for GoPro footage from that race, all gone.
Yeah,
all the GoPros overheated, shut off like 15 minutes in, and it's really a shame. The top turn before that bottom turn was probably one of the best moments. Like, in boat racing or any type of motor, I'm a motorsports guy. I mean, if it has wheels and an engine, I want to watch it, race it, learn it. That's just me. And that race was one of them races like you get, like I say, once in a lifetime, but that's the one you fight for a decade or for 5 years, and that's what gets you coming back to more. I mean, in the end, you breaking out, it sucks, whatever. But in the moment, that was the best race. I'd say one of the best races I've ever raced.
Yeah. And so just to clear it up, too, you guys chased them down, what, lap 5, 6?
Very last lap.
Was it the last lap?
First turn, not last turn.
So the turn that I remember is the dam turn.
Yep.
And you guys came in ahead of them.
Yep.
Right? And as you were coming into the first pillow, just the freeze frame in my head of what was so spectacular about it is you left no room. Like, no room. Not that it was dirty or anything, but you left no room. And most people in that situation, if you're watching a boat race, if you're a typical fan, don't understand exactly what goes on in that split second of entry, right? So when you come across and shut the door and Jesse and Rob make the decision to stay in, that to me that's when you say that's what you fight for a decade, I want that. I miss that. I miss that style of racing where it's who's got the balls.
Yep. And so what's actually kind of great about that race is multiple things. I wish the top turn was on film, because the top turn was Jesse and Rob were out front, and I watched them for 5 laps, just 10 feet in front of me. And he would look back 100 feet from the turn. He would look back, see where I was at, and cut me off 10 times. Right. 5 laps. So 10 times he would do that. And he was getting antsy over there, and he's, a little bit more the higher strung one of the two of us. And, you got to do something. You got to do something. I said, I promise I'm doing everything I can. And finally, I mean, he looked back at me, and as soon as he looked back, I jumped out 8 lanes, and he said, "Where are you going? Where are you going?" I said, "Don't worry.
I'm going to try something.
I'm
That's
going
what
to
he
try
said.
something."
And we got it.
And
He kept saying it.
I went 150 feet past the pillow and turned 170 degrees and shot for where they were at, and he had no idea I was even there. And when he looked over, we were decked to
Right.
cockpit. And that was, like, that's a good feeling. Like that, like, I don't get super pumped. I'm not, one of my great qualities is I'm never more than an 8, but I'm never lower than a 4.
Right.
But that frustrates a lot of people because I get out of the boat and, you just won. I'm like, yeah, we ran good. Or like, I never too high, never too low. But if I have to rank that one's up there pretty high.
Yeah, no, that was a
no
spectacular
no
race.
footage of it. I think Jesse and Rob might have footage of it, but they're never going to show it to me.
Right.
I think so. If you're watching Jesse and Rob, let me know if you have footage of it. I want to see it.
I have it all on my phone, actually.
You
right here.
still, you still
God.
won, but
I don't know.
I'm sure
Fran-
you weren't feeling that way when the checker flag flew.
I think Fran's got the jump on you. He's got the
I
footage.
do
He
have it in my
claims
phone.
he has he doesn't know what he has on his phone. He probably doesn't know his password.
I watch it every day.
I watch it every day.
I swear to God, I'm dead serious. I watched
wake
it
up
this
to
morning when I watched
every
it.
morning. I
I
watch
watch
this
I'm dead
footage.
serious.
It's funny, man. You look at that, right? That little,
Yeah.
was it 8 laps we ran a lot
Yeah,
of?
40 miles.
You
If
look at
it
40
like that.
miles and you think to yourself, man, all this work, all season, you break your ass to get to one pinnacle moment, and that was it. That's when I kind of wanted to go here with the breakout thing. How just devastating that is. I never cover it. I've had a lot of bracket class guys on the show, and that's a moment where even as the organization, when we're sitting in a room going through, analyzing all the GPS chips, making sure everything's okay, everything went right. That's the heartbreaker when you watch something like that.
It's not a heartbreaker when you know you did it, though.
Right.
So I knew it happened to me in Michigan. I knew it happened out in the lake. I know when it happens, and I'm like, oh, my God. And there's even video of it out there on the GoPro. Right in Michigan, I was like, I threw my hands up in the air. I'm like, come on. And I'm like, and I knew it. And I'm, just makes your stomach drop.
It's the worst.
And you knew it, but what are you supposed to do? It's like, maybe I'm wrong. So I start thinking about it. But even at the lake, I started trying something, even because the water was so calm. I started leaning on the throttle, pull it back, lean on it and pull it back. I've never done that.
Right.
And I would see some high numbers, like 72. And we're going over, we're coming under, we're going over. And I've never done that, ever. And he was like, I can feel it. And then he's like, just don't let off in the turn. I'm like, this drive's going to break off this boat. We're going to get ejected.
Now
he's like, I got it. And he did.
Is that a result of the competition stiffening up a little bit this year? Forcing you to kind of chase that top number?
I think it's been that way for a couple seasons, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, you have to be there. Like maybe I've raced Class 5, I've raced SVLs, I've raced a few things, fortunately. And something about Class 6 is if you're not going 69.5, 69.8, you're not going to be in that lead pack. And I think that's just the nature of the beast. If you live by the sword, you're going to die by the sword. But that's the only way you're going to win. If you're going to run 68.5, you're not going to be in the front. And it's really a testament. I'd like to see, I'm sure there's a way to do it. If you could take all the distance of over the speed of 70 and 75 and 85 in all the classes, I would put any amount of money, 7 and 6 would have the most time over 70 by far. I mean, the 7 guys are pretty crazy too. And we're, at one point, I think we went 4,800 feet over 70 and didn't break out over a course of a lap, over 20-some thousand feet.
Right.
And that's
and
a
so
lot.
people listening at home don't necessarily understand what we're talking about here because they, I've explained the rules a bunch, but now there's bending the rules and there's playing what we call the game.
Fran didn't know the game till about this season.
Well,
So he's just now. Oh, hey, Fran.
My very first race, I broke out 12 times. It never happened again.
It happened
come
again.
on,
It happened at Lake Apacon the next year. What are you talking about?
That was like .002. Same thing happened to you.
It did happen to me.
Well, the game, folks, is if we have to stop at 70 miles an hour, you're allowed a total of 3 seconds over at any one given time. So for one solitary moment, you're allowed to go over 70 miles an hour for 2.9 seconds. As soon as it's 3 seconds, you're disqualified, because that's the threshold that we determined being enough to change a race. So when we're talking about getting on it, pulling back, what Fran's alluding to is going a bit over 70 miles an hour for a very short amount of time and then getting back under your speed safely, because unless it was for more than 3 seconds, you're fine. And it's interesting how that's evolved. So like initially when these boxes first came out, the big difference was our old ones read like 1 time every 3 seconds. Then these read like 5 times every 1 second. And we tried to employ the same rules, and everybody was breaking out. I mean, if 8 boats took the green flag, 7 of them broke out. So, well,
Yeah.
So look at how hard you run your number. Imagine if you were coming from a system where you could break out. 3 seconds was always the rule of thumb, but if it was a little more, it was only one little section of the race course where
I'm not doing that anymore.
No,
I broke
and-
out. I don't.
It's
fun. To lose.
It's funny you say that, because I was going to get through explaining it, and then kind of I don't know that I value it as much as when it first came out. Like when everybody first realized they could do this, it was like this big monumental thing. It was who was playing the game better, who was getting more of a jump. But anymore, I think it hurts you, because
It did.
are you seeing that you're coming up to 72, 73, but then the pullback is almost worse than what you gained, right? Because now you got to
Correct.
get back under 70, try and get back in it into a rhythm almost, right? Like to
Right.
where, and now sometimes that rhythm's just not there. Does it help you more than or does it hurt you more than it helps you?
I mean, I haven't done it again enough to say, hey, this way's better or this way's better. I did it the one way at the lake, and it bit me.
Right.
So I don't know. Do I want to try it again? Absolutely not.
See, to me, it goes back to that smooth as fast thing, where like
I want to maintain that number.
I'd rather run 69 all the way around the course than 72, 63, 72, 68. You know what I mean? It just doesn't seem to add up to me.
Right.
But I'm not a throttleman either, so that's why I ask. But it's definitely a tough thing, man. Like breaking out there in Lotto, where you have the race of a lifetime, right? And
Yeah.
then it's just
But that was
yanked
on
out
that
from under
too.
you.
Hey, doesn't matter,
It
man.
still happened,
I'm
I
still
know.
telling you this,
And
like
I'm still
4 months
hearing about
later.
it. I know.
Doesn't matter, man.
Break, cut.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be on the show anymore. Abandon and ship.
I'm hard on myself when it comes to that. Like, really, I am. I don't know. I don't want to talk to anybody as soon as it happens. Just let me go clean the boat and get done.
Yeah. Well, dude, it's the equivalent
I let
of
myself down.
Well, and it's the equivalent of, like, imagine if you were running NASCAR or something, and one of your pit guys left the lug nut loose on the last lap. You know what I mean? You got to come back in. NASCAR flags you. That's the same thing that we go through when we get the breakout notice. Is like, man, it's like the whole world is against you now. It's like, and then God forbid you won and you got the flag and it's all over, your social media pages. It's all over everything, and then you got to go and make that walk of shame and let everybody know what happened. It's
Just
the
so
worst,
you know,
man.
Fran doesn't do that. I have to go give the flag back, even
did in
though
Michigan.
even though my driving was superb. I mean, they didn't pass us. So, but don't worry, I had to do the walk of shame and give the flag back. It's all right, Fran.
Sorry.
It's the right
Won't
thing to
happen
do.
again.
Yeah, but
It's
you know
right
what?
thing.
It's
I
a
do.
double.
I feel bad. I just, it. Like, your heart drops out. And I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like, I had nothing to say.
Well, and from there, where'd you go from Lotto? Did you go to Point Pleasant from Lotto?
Yep.
Yep.
So from there, obviously, no chance of breaking out.
Almost.
yeah.
Almost. We went
Absolutely.
2.9.
Did you?
Yeah, we went
Yeah.
2.9
You run
there.
a number.
So in Point, walk me through that one there. I mean, you had Smith Brothers were there.
Moderation.
Moderation was there, which is another cool team that's coming along nicely. And I've been trying to allude to some of these new guys. Like, I know I'm saying your name wrong, Nick. I'm sorry, man. Nick Hulbert and Andy Miller in Punchin' Hulls, which is the old Deception boat that
Knocking holes,
Knock-
if you ask Redhead Mike. No, I'm
Pinching.
joking.
pinching holes. It's been a lot of things. What was it? Digging holes a couple times.
Yeah.
But
Oh, God.
whatever, man. They're running unbelievable, and to think that they're running so good with a 496 in that boat, just a bone stocker, just
Yep.
something
They're
to get
having
you
a
out
blast.
there, and they're having a blast, and they're killing it.
Yep.
They really are, man. They're doing a great job. Them and it's kind of like a Missouri team, right? Them and the ST Racing boat.
Yeah, they're
Sam
actually
Thompson.
kind of like out of the same kind of camp. I think Sam was working on the boat a lot for Nick. I think he helped get it set up in the beginning, and then Sam runs, I think, with Travis, and they're running good too. They're figuring it out. They're putting more horsepower, and I think they all started there with, we got a 509 or we got this. I'm like, you need a little more than that.
Yeah.
But they're going to figure it out, and I think I'm trying to convince them to come to Inglewood. So if you're listening, come to Inglewood, please.
See you guys
I think
there.
you'll have a good time.
Absolutely.
You know what? And it's funny you bring up Inglewood. That's like the ultimate proving ground for bracket class anymore. It's you never know what you're going to get. You could get 2 full-blown haymakers, or how we've always gotten it, where you have a rough day and a flat day. But that's just proven to be that's the granddaddy of them all for bracket class anymore.
We haven't won it yet, put it that way. We've had a couple hard luck there. I think we would win the hard luck award for Inglewood. We've been disqualified for a jump on a start, and that took us out one year. We blew an engine up one year. What else did we do there? We found more ways to lose in Inglewood than win. Hopefully 2020, or 2021. Don't hang out
with me, man.
Do a little better.
Don't hang out with me. I've been involved in 11 world championships and finished 2 of them.
Yeah.
So
I'm trying not to live down your path. There.
Definitely go the other way.
Okay.
I had great luck everywhere else. The world championships seem to evade me every time, man. But it's such a cool course, man, and especially coming down the pipe here. I mean, we got Morehead City, Fort Myers, Inglewood, and Fort Myers is what it is. That's going to be one of the, when we look back at the heyday of this sport, Fort Myers is a name you can never jump over. That's been such a great site for so many years. It's so great to see it back. But looking past that a little bit to Inglewood, so you go through Morehead, Fort Myers, and then we get that Inglewood. And that's, I think you're going to see 10, 15 boats in Class 6 this year.
Awesome.
I think you're just going to have the best of the best down there. And I'm really curious, like very curious. You got the Money Monster with my old green boat in there. They seem to be getting that thing straightened out. I know they've had a lot of carburetor issues.
You going to buy it back?
I don't know.
Have you made him an offer?
I don't know, man.
He's sending me pictures the other day. He's putting all kinds of props on it, and I'm like, yeah, get it done. Come on, let's go.
Is he trying shit?
Yeah, he's
I think
trying.
You're going to have them. You got that 26 Sutphin of moderation there, which is another rough water monster.
And they're getting better every race.
Yeah.
They ran in Morehead last year.
Yep.
Ran good, and then they ran good in Point Pleasant. I think they finished second. I think they had some GPS issues, but I mean, finished the race in second. That's, that's a step in the right direction for sure.
Well, and they have a veteran throttleman there with Johnny Saris, and the guy Mike Lang's probably just getting his feet wet. I know he had a baby beginning of this year, missed a bunch of the season. I know he wasn't planning on, but he looks better every time out, and very similar to the Punch and Hulls guys or ST Racing, and then you have your vets. Right, you have your Smith brothers, your Deception, you guys, Money Monster, who's formerly Liquid Addiction, right? So they've got some time in. So you've got some guys to run against there. If you're looking at the landscape of the end of 2021, who's your biggest competition at this point? Probably Rob and Jesse?
Francis. Why are you looking at me? I know my answer.
I'd have to go with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that I was hoping you'd say that, because I really think I look at this stuff. I'm as big a fan as I am an entity.
I have
racing.
a different answer to him, by the way.
Well,
so
shoot.
we can go me next. Now go
Light it off.
Finish off with him.
All right. Well, to me, that's shaping up to be a battle. I've seen them in Lotto. I've seen them in Michigan now. I see them every race learning something new about that Joker. And you have another one there in Smith Brothers, which is you can never step over. Those guys are a monster. But that particular battle, I can see the mentalities lining up. I can see the equipment lining up, and I could see a war coming in Inglewood. And I know you guys have missed your shot there the last couple of years. I think this year might be your year. But if anybody was going to take it from you, that would be my bet.
That's it. I appreciate that. And a little bit of confidence there.
We'll see.
I think so, man. It's shaping up. I mean,
they're the only other team that we really raced a lot against this season. Everybody's kind of all over the place, so it's kind of a tough answer. But, for who we've raced against, you got it. Yeah, Andy and Nick, they're coming along pretty good. He's blunt about it. I'm coming for you. I'm like, okay, Nick's the same way. It's good. Rob and Jesse kind of like lay back a little bit, and which is fine. I like the competition.
I just think it's awesome because your boat to me is probably one of the more like purpose-built boats in offshore. Like you have a couple, right? Like you look at like the Y2K in Class 5, that's like a purpose-built Class 5 boat. You look at the 30-foot Phantom of Team Woody's, that's kind of a purpose-built. Not that it was, but it is. When you look at the specs of it, it was made for that class, right?
Correct.
You look at your Larry Smith, that's the boat for Class 6.
You know how many times I try and buy another one?
Good luck,
I look for them all the time. Every
Good
time I
luck.
find one, it's gone.
Yeah, they're
They
awesome.
sell quick.
They're awesome. They respond well to power. They respond great in the rough water. I mean, and it's just look at your body of work, man.
Yep.
I mean, it's unbelievable. But I don't want to get too far away.
Oh,
Yeah, I want to hear Mike's answer.
Oh,
You
okay.
got something
So-
brewing over there.
100%. I respect everyone in the class. I'm not a big ego guy. That's not my style. But Jesse and Rob, we've raced with them guys. We can be an inch off their deck around the whole course, and I know what they're going to do. And I can say that about 95% of the Class 6 guys. I mean, we're going to run respectful out there, and I don't mind putting it in on them. And if they put it in on us, same thing. I'm good with all that. And I don't know how to say it without being controversial. I think the Smith brothers don't like us getting out front on them at the moment, and I just can't see them staying back for long.
Well, and it's fun.
I mean, I know that they had some engine problems in St. Clair, and they're. I mean, you
Thought about it on
don't
the way here.
do it for 10 years or 12 years or 15 years, however long they've been. They've been doing Class 6 since the beginning. I mean, they had the Corsa, and I don't see them wanting to stay behind us for very long.
No.
So I don't know what they're doing. They're humble people too, and they're not just sitting back going, we tried. So I don't know what they're going to come out with, but I expect it's going to be something.
If you had to give like a 2-word bio for a team, theirs would be crafty.
Yeah.
Crafty and humble. It's I raced against them for a long time, as you guys have, and I see the same consistency now as I did when I raced against them then. That's a team that is always going to be there at the end. Always.
Yeah.
They know how to get there. They know where they need to be.
Their equipment usually holds together. You
Yep.
know, that's preparation is a big thing in any boat racing.
Well, and they are too just phenomenal racers. It's just they started in F1 from what I understand. I've never had like a thorough conversation with them, but I believe they started in F1. And anybody coming out of those days has a significant amount of racing experience in traffic, right? So they used to 20 boat starts, 25 boat starts. Moving into Class 6 nowadays, a lot of that translates right over. You watch you guys where your game plan is get out in front, stay there, right? Their style is more of a let everything shake out and see where we are and hunt everybody back down after.
But
Yeah,
how
I
long
agree.
how long are they going to do that before they go, you know what, we're going to get out front from the beginning?
Well, I don't
But they
think
have a
you
lot,
don't-
and they've been there right alongside of us, and I'll admit it. I've seen them. We got plenty of videos to watch them. And he's playing. They both have said it to me, like, it's just too rough. We just wait for everybody to break.
well, and they're smart that way.
Sure.
They're
I
smart
agree.
that way. So figure I've been racing since 09. From 09 to 15, I ran Class 6, right? So 6 years I raced with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell you that's always been their MO. Like, always. They'd let me and my brother go like a bat out of hell and just wait for something to let loose. You know what I mean? And not that that's a shit strategy. It's a great strategy. It's when it's big like that, when it's 8 to 10s, and you got knuckleheads like me that'll just go and break everything in pieces. Why not just let them go? I mean, when you're looking at budgeting and scheduling, and if I take myself out of Point Pleasant, I might not see the race course again until Morehead City. It's a tough decision to make. But one thing I can say about them is they're not the guys to just lay down.
No.
Like, they might give it a couple laps and see how everything shakes out, but they're always there. They're always, you find yourself 6, 7, maybe you got 8 laps, but you're on 6 or 7, you're looking across the course, and you'll see them maybe going into the turn as you're coming out of the turn, and then next lap, you'll be coming out of the turn as they're maybe apex in the turn, and you're like, man, these guys are picking me off.
Yeah, they're starting to catch up. We
And
said
it's
it.
always good to play from a position of strength, like when you're on top of the hill and you can dictate the race course and dictate the lines, you're always at an advantage. But those guys seem to always find a way. You know, they are phenomenal racers. They're, and I said it in the beginning there, their consistency is the key to their program. It's always the same line. It's always the same mentality. They always finish. They always finish, and they always finish well, man. You know, so yeah, no, you can never count them boys out ever, and they're vicious. Don't listen. I'll tell you one thing about them. Don't fall asleep on them because they are vicious. I'll tell you that the latter years of the green boat in Class 6, I had that class fairly well sorted out. The green boat was like the situation you guys were in. Are in, where you kind of had the perfect storm. You had a conventional V, no slide. You could turn it as tight as you wanted to turn it. And I had all the means to just keep putting power in it if anybody thought they could turn with it. So it was tough for guys that were racing on 600 horse, 650 horse to come play with a boat making almost 1,000 that could turn like that around the pins. And you'd get to some of these race courses where you get to an Ocean City, Maryland, and you say to yourself, I got this. I mean, I got all the power. I got all the weight in the front. I got the boat for today. And they go out and wax me. Like, they'll go put 5-6 boat lengths on me and won't give it back. And I'm like, man, where was that all year? You know, like, it makes you scratch your head. But they're smart. They know when to stick their head out there. They took a world championship away from me in Ocean City. They did. It's funny. I was wondering why I was so specific about that race subconsciously.
That must have been 13.
Yeah, 2013, man. They got out in front on me, and there's just nothing I could do. I tried every trick in the book. I couldn't even get back to them. And I'm telling you, man, that was when the green boat was loaded for bear. I mean, that boat was ready to go, and they spanked me. I mean, spanked
Everybody
me.
running that number then?
Oh, absolutely. You
Really?
know, yeah,
That's good.
yeah, 5, 6s out there too. Nothing small, but you know what it is about them? Pete has amazing boat control. Not to spend. I got you guys in here. We're spending all this time talking
Appreciate
about
this.
Rich and Pete, but Pete has good boat control. If you ever watch his videos of him driving a boat, he just has a feel about him. Like, you watch that boat trip off its transom how many times, and it just comes down and goes straight. I mean, he's got the idea of boat control, and Rich just doesn't break out. You know, I mean, in all the years we've been racing together, or even since then, I think I've maybe seen him break out 2 or 3 times in all these years.
I think I've only one time in Inglewood. I know I talked to him. That was the year we got DQ'd for the start fiasco.
Foul. Foul. Sorry.
But they said they broke out that time, and I mean that's the only time I can remember with us being in 6 that they broke out. I mean, it's good.
It's far and few in between. Yep. So it's just cool, and it's funny. You said you've raced 5,
Yep.
4, right?
No, I haven't done 4. I did SVL, carbureted SVL.
Carbureted
Mod V, I guess.
and Pro Stock. You raced with Dante for a little while, yeah. And it's funny how immediately you said, but there's just something about Class 6.
Well, you know what's funny? Everything that makes you a great bracket boat driver makes you a terrible SVL driver.
Right.
So, you know, the whole mentality of getting around the course is totally different.
Right.
And, you know, so I don't know anything about picking a line in smooth water. Smooth water, there is, if it's from A to B, whatever water's in between, that's what you got to do in a bracket class.
Right.
There is no going outside and finding the smooth stuff.
No.
That's how you get last.
Yeah, we just fight through that.
Exactly.
You know, but it's funny because my theory on it is always that it's that 70 number. It's a magical number for bracket class because I took the green boat in 2015 and went up to 5. And when I went up to 5, initially I thought, well, what's the big deal? It's 5 mile an hour, right? But it's just enough to get you loose, right?
So, hold on. Let me back up a second, not to cut you off. How big's that green boat?
20. Well, they say 24. I think it measures like 22.8.
All right.
So we went up to 5 with that, and there was some good, competition in that class. Definitely good competition. But when I first showed up, it was a lot of Y2K superboats. It was Reinforcer, Cisco, Are You Faster? I'm forgetting now. There was quite a few of them.
There was a few.
And there was the Dante with the Kryptonite. Coastal Boat Sales with a 24 Pantera with the big drive, though.
I
Typhoon
started
was out there,
in-
right?
in
Typhoon.
15 as well in my 28 Pantera. So
Yep. I was just getting you with the Pantera. There,
Wait,
I mean,
you guys racing against each other, gentlemen?
yeah, 15, 16, 17 maybe.
I think so. Yeah.
17 was the last year in the green boat, or
Yep.
16.
No, 17 was the
Okay.
last one for me. And actually, no, 16 was.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it, yeah. And so there was some killers in that class, but what got me in the game was nobody was running big horsepower. When I first showed up, we got rid of the Oldsmobile motor I was running. That was like 13-1. To be honest with you, I was tired of race fuel. I couldn't do it anymore. I ran every race on the schedule. So it's not even so much the cost. It's trying to find it all the time. And when we were looking at 5, I said, listen, we'll do this, but we got to do something better, with this package. And then I probably jinxed it. The next race we went to, we spit the rods out of it, and that thing was junk anyway. So we had a 572 sitting on the floor with a 1071 wheel, and we're looking at it, and I'm like, it's solid power, but we're right back to square one. I mean, it's Monster Garage again. I don't want to do this. So brother talked me into it. We put the motor in the boat, and first ride out, we were like, dude, this thing's a jet ski. Like, it just, you hit the throttle, and it just takes off. I mean, there's not even a thought. It's just instant power, So we got to Atlantic City that year, and Cohen Sr. came up to me and said, I don't know what you guys think you're doing with that little green boat in this class, but you ain't catching nobody. Well, that's the only shit you had to say to Anthony. And so green flag went up. We were tied for first with Cohen going out of turn 1. Backstretch, we legged them probably 3 to 4 lengths, and then we hit one. And, I mean, we were hitting them the whole time. It was rough. But we hit one really good. We were in the air for a long, long time. And when we came down, he was probably 4 or 5 lengths ahead of us. And that right there is the difference between 70 and 75. When you think about how, you're saying, like Point Pleasant, where I go, no chance you were breaking out there. And you go, it was close, right? That's the difference. Once you break that 70 number and you go for that 73, 74 in the big stuff, it's silly to think that 3 miles an hour makes that big of a difference, but it just gets your boat to where it's not comfy anymore. And I don't know if it's the same in yours, but with mine, where they're pretty not, they're.
So did you go back to 6?
No. The boat went back to 6. We stayed for 2 more years and put a world championship on it in 5 and then got rid of it. But it's crazy. Like,
bad move for you? Wish you didn't do it?
No. It was probably the most.
What was the purpose you left?
Boat was starting to get old. I mean, it just not old as in materials getting old. It was getting old to us. We would get out of that boat absolutely beat to shit. I mean, I could take it. I was young and dumb. My brother was starting to get, like, enough of this, dude. Like you have to remember, at the time, he's running the Phoenix Parts Supercat. He's running the 38 Fountain against Louis and them. And then he's getting out of all those and getting in the green boat.
Was there 3 of you guys in that boat also?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we ran 3 of us all the time.
It's like putting bulls in a china cabinet.
Who
was in there with you?
I had
for a while.
Matt DiGiacomo, Big Mac, and I had Ryan Grauer in the boat with me. Navigator anymore isn't like a huge advantage. We're all pretty good at knowing what's around us.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that anymore. I tell you, Liquid Addiction and Jeff and them guys in the Money Monster now. That guy just, if he's out front of us, he just turns around and looks at me, and wherever I'm at, that's where he goes.
Yeah.
So that might be a little bit of an advantage there.
Yeah, it is. But for us,
Cliff.
The boat was, Cliff's the navigator, Cliff Shaw.
He's good too.
And for us, it was more about scaring somebody. We just put somebody in that seat, and they'd never come back. And we just get laughs out of it. I mean, the boat was so psychotic. I mean, the 5 years that was probably the hardest racing I've ever done. And it wasn't hard in the sense of, like, hard on the equipment. It was just difficult. You were always at a disadvantage no matter what you were doing. If you were trying to set up for a turn or set somebody else up in a turn, I could feed that Y2K my wake all day long. It didn't matter. They just went over it. I wasn't used to that. I was used to boats my size, where you'd go in a turn, you throw a wake at them, and it screws them up, and you gain a second or two, right? I mean, just typical things you do going through bracket class, and I was finding that none of it worked. I mean, you would just have to beat them on speed numbers alone. You'd have to be able to average a better speed, you know what I mean, a tighter course, and that I did have in my favor. The green boat would rail. I mean, it would.
But in the rough water, it was pretty hard.
Rough was tough, man. And the boat
But in the calm, you had it.
Calm, you had it. Like, I know you guys have been kicking around a step up, right, just to try and test your mettle. Last I talked to you, we were running through some of that.
I think about it.
No, thinking about it. But it's I'll tell you, it's fun being outgunned. That's fun, because when you do something, you knew you did it.
It makes you push harder.
It does.
Get that adrenaline back again.
Also, I promise you, you will be logging a lot more hours working on that boat. It's painful, the shit that goes wrong. I mean, it's that green boat of mine. We used to laugh and say you could run that through a brick wall, and it wouldn't matter. And 5 more mile an hour.
Well, that's kind of. I mean, after we get out of a rough race, Mike has this special saying he always says to me.
That was like the worst lead-in I have ever heard in my whole life.
He always says, if it's broke, it's strong. Say it. Come on.
All right. So, a lot of people know, anyone watching this, I'm sure knows, I'm down at the Lily compound all the time. Pretty much live down there. And the guy, Alan, their head mechanic down there, older guy, you know, in his late 50s probably, has a great attitude for working on boats for 40 years, if that gives you an idea of how great his attitude is. And he would always say, we'd come back with a broken boat, and he would say, well, if it holds, she's strong, but if it broke, she gone. And so
he says that after we get out of the rough water races.
Well, see, Fran is I'm not very superstitious or any of stuff like that. That doesn't bother. I don't know why. I'm just not wired that way. Excuse me. Fran very much is. And so we were in Moorhead. I sprung this on him in 2020. So everyone knows 19 lost 2 or 3 engines, had a bad spout there. 2020, we go to Moorhead, the very first race, got new engine package, new engine builder, new combination, the whole 9. Tested it maybe once, typical, boat race stuff. And he's nervous. He's sitting there walking around. When he gets nervous, he starts eating. And he's eating donuts and pizza and worrying. And I was like, Alan told me this thing, right? He goes, oh, yeah? I said, yeah, he's got some good advice. And he said, oh, well, what is it? And I was like, look, if it holds, she's strong. If it broke, she gone. And he looks at me and goes, how the hell is that supposed to help?
How's that supposed to
I said,
mean?
I don't know, man. I'm just trying to help. I
turned around and walked away. I say 2 words to him.
You looked upset, and that Alan said that would help. And I do it. Everyone at the race would think I don't like Fran, but anyone that knows me knows if I give you a hard time, it's because I like you.
Yep.
If I don't give you a hard time, I probably don't like you. So I probably just outed myself to a whole bunch of people at the race that they're like, oh, he's really nice, and then he's quiet and walks away. Oh, I might not like you.
I thought Mike was a nice guy.
Yeah, no, come on, man. But no, so I mean, Fran just,
I'm nervous. I get nervous.
He is a nervous type.
I got
guy.
a lot. I mean, I put a lot of time, and that's what you just said. If you go to 5, you put twice as much time into the boat. I do put a lot of time in it. So does he. And you know what happens? It's just, it's like, I hate to say it. I mean, we went through some engines, and just hearing that noise when it let go. And it's like, I can see the finish line.
Yeah.
And he looks at me and goes, what is that? And I go, what the you think it is?
Yeah.
I know what it is. Is it to drive? And I would go back there and I just lift the engine hatch and I close it and I go, sure. And I get on the front of the boat and I just sit down. I got nothing to say to nobody.
You know what you love about stories?
I hate it, man.
His story always differs from the truth. That's
Really?
the best part about Fran's
I remember
story.
things so clearly. Listen, you can't get it wrong. When there's a rod hanging out of your block, it's hanging out of the block.
Trust me, I remember. I'll replay it for you.
No.
We come around the turn, topside in Englewood, Sunday in 19, and it lets loose bad. And we lose, 600 RPM. Thing falls to 63 or 4. And he goes, you think we can make it? And I said, no. Might as well pull in. Maybe, I was thinking maybe we broke a rocker arm or something and we lost a cylinder, but it would be salvageable. It was not salvageable. But what was it? I knew what it was.
The boat's flexing.
Yeah.
That's the boat was flexing.
That was a theory given to us by someone was at the boat. Boat must have flexed, and that's what broke the engine. But whatever. That's a little inside joke there, Fran's throwing at you.
Now, you did have a tough string there with power, and I never got a chance to talk to you about this, but I know you were playing with some big compression.
In the beginning, because the boat, when I originally bought the boat from Big Pine Key, it had a 509 Gellner engine in it with like 12.5 to 1.
Right.
And then that's what he beat into my head. It's safe. Just make sure you stay with the 110. You don't need any of that.
No.
You don't need that at all.
So
I'm doing it now with 93.
Right. And now
Rec 90 or
Yeah.
Rec 88,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
It's a pump gas, motor. It's nothing.
well, and you don't
Nothing
have
crazy.
to, and you don't have to get into this if you don't want to, but that's what you hear is, that Rum Runners boat's running a lot of horsepower, right?
No.
Well, what are you running now? And you don't have to tell me if you don't want to. You could just kind of skate through it.
Come on, Fran. Be honest.
I'm running a 548.
How much horsepower does it make?
738. I just built the identical second motor to it.
So now, without getting any further into this,
Oh, no. Let's
right?
go further.
Well,
It's fine.
without
I got nothing to hide.
without diving all the way into it, a lot of torque.
Less than that.
Well,
700.
so here's the big thought process of bracket
Sure.
class for people watching at home. I've had multiple people come from watching this show towards looking to get
Yep,
into some boat
sure.
racing. Right? Here's a little fight for you at home. Okay, the argument of big compression or big inch. Right now, a lot of people start off building horsepower because that's what they know. Right. And I think eventually you wind up in the other lane of just wanting a bit of torque. Like
Sure.
that's to me is the key of bracket class. Have you guys found that to be a good combination now with what you're doing?
I mean, we're winning. No, I mean, to be blunt, I've been saying it all along. You need cubic inch. That's where the power is. If it was up to me, I would build even bit more cubic inch and be bigger. But there is a fine line. We are fortunately pretty good on outdrive equipment, so you have to be able to finish. You can't be buying a drive every race. You can't even get Mercury parts now, but you can't be finishing a drive every race. You can't be twisting stuff off. I remember Warren back in the day in the mitigator boat.
Yep.
Used to run that 632 with a brand new IMCO SC, and he'd twist the gears off every race. Like you can't do that. You can't turn the key and hope your drive's going to last 50 miles. I mean, I'm sure you dealt with that in the green boat a little bit.
Yeah.
You probably hurt some drives.
No, I honestly I think I broke 2 or 3 the whole year, all the years we ran, but I also stayed with a really high slip percentage.
Yep.
So we always ran a 4-blade Bravo or a 4-blade Hydro, and my slip was always 22%. And I never really looked for much more. Like we tried a couple different things. We tried 5 blades. We tried other things to try and get the slip down. I ran into a few problems, like getting on plane was tough, stuff like that. And realistically, the 4-blade ran great. So we just never really dabbled into other stuff. Mm-hmm. But with the slip, I didn't cook very many drives. And I do tend to lean on my old man for that. He's one hell of a drive builder. He does all our stuff, and we don't really tend to run into too many issues drive-wise. But slip was my friend when I was running the big power. But you're right on inch. My thoughts are, and for people listening to this thinking about building a boat or whatever, there's no difference in building a 502, a 510, a 540, a 572. They're all the same money in parts. Right, but
I agree.
When you look at the inch, what the inch gives you, and the old saying of "there's no replacement for displacement," right?
Correct.
Well, my thoughts about that in bracket class is it's not about how fast your boat will go; it's about how fast it'll get there. And if you're trying to accomplish that goal, then why are you building big horsepower? Like I hear everybody brag about the 900 horse motors and 950. I don't give a shit. What's the torque curve look like? If the torque curve's solid, maybe you'll blow my skirt up, but if you're coming to me with 1,000 horse, it just means you're drinking a shitload of fuel, and I'll probably get you out of the gate. And it's funny, like watching you guys come from your trials and tribulations, where I knew when you first came into class, when I heard the compression numbers and everything, it just resonated with me because I did that for so many years. And the only way I got away with it was my motor was supposed to spin like 76, 78, and I was getting away with it at 52, 5,300. But we as soon as we turned it up, we scattered it.
Same thing we did with mine.
Yeah,
we tried a different drive and spun the RPMs. We were told the same thing. Spin that thing 72, 7,600, and as soon as we were spinning it close to 7, it let go.
Yeah, and it's funny. It was almost like I was watching the Ford vs. Ferrari movie when that first came out, and the whole don't spin it too high.
Yeah.
I think 6,600 was the number, right? And I was laughing. I'm like, man, I wish somebody would have told my brother that, because we put the 165 on the boat and went down in pitch even further from where we were, and figured just let it eat. We were tight in points with I think maxed out at that time, which you guys are fighting against
was,
now.
Was that then, or was that when you were tighten points with Not Guilty?
Oh, that was 2010.
That might have been. Yeah, that was way back.
That is damn.
Yeah,
you
with
just
Merck, man. Look,
you just brought up.
I'm a boat racing junkie, you
dude.
know?
You just brought up the most awkward moment in my entire life.
That's all right. Ray Merck tried to fight me in the parking lot in 16 or 17
At Inglewood.
In Inglewood.
He came over to me and said, "Where's your driver?" And I said, "Wow, are you all right, dude?" He goes, "I got a bone to pick with him. I'm going to take care of him."
He's a tough bastard,
I
man.
was like, "He's all right. He's floating around."
All I
I
can
don't
tell
need
you
to
is-
get my ass kicked by a 70-year-old old man.
But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have wanted to fight him when he was 40.
No.
Because he's a tough old man, dude.
Yes, he is.
And we ran hard that whole 2010 season. It was Smith Brothers, Not Guilty, and us. And, kind of jockeying there. Maxed out they came out with a checkmate first, and then they found the Joker
I
later.
think that made one race, that checkmate.
Yeah.
It used to have a three-man set up, and the one guy sat behind the other two guys.
Yep. And so we came all the way down to the end, and it was like 1 point separating Rob and I. And Rob Ray, father-son combo, and Not Guilty, for those of you who don't know them. But it came down to like 1 point. So I ended up, I forget exactly how the math worked, but after the race, we wound up at a dead nuts tie. And the way you go into, like, nobody ever thinks about tying national points. Like,
crazy.
It's like thinking about tying a race. Like, there's so many ways for there to be like 1 point here or 1 point there, and so many round numbers in scoring. Like, how do you wind up with a tie? But we did. And my old man came up to me and he's like, "Dude, at this time, I'm 15 years old. You know what I mean? And I'm winning not only Class 6, but high points for the whole organization." And he's like,
"Wait, how old were you then?"
15. And he's like, "What do you want to do here?" You know, and I'm like, "Give it to him, man. I don't know what you want me to say. I mean, I as much as it's not giving it to him, like, I'm using the wrong words. We both did the same amount of work to get here, and I think the tiebreaker was distance, or D would have to.
Was it distance, or was it like overall wins? Maybe back then.
I think it went to positions. Actually, now that you say it, it was who had the best positioning over the course of the year. So, like, I had broken out in one race, and then I think won the rest, and then he had stayed with a consistent like third, second, and that breakout screwed me. And I think I won because of, like, positions, and then the next tiebreaker would have been distance. And basically the way my old man laid it out is you beat him in every tiebreaker. Like, even if I wanted to point to a different one, you still got it. Like, there's no way for me to get around this. And I was so heartbroken because I'll tell you a story about Ray Merck. Ray Merck came up here to get a drive built in, like, 2006, right? And I was a little kid, and I was always here. Just one way or another, I was here. I was never at school. I was never at sports. I was here.
Says a lot.
And, well,
says a lot.
So he came in, he picked up his drive, and as he's leaving, my old man wouldn't take his money or whatever the case was. So he came up and he handed it to me, and he goes, "Save this." He goes, "Because one day you'll have a race boat and you'll need it for gas money." Right? Well, fast forward to 2010, right? Here we are tied. You know, and I'm like, well,
You try and give him the
I got him, right? This is how we're going to smooth it over, right? I walk up to him with that $20 and I'm like, "Hey, man, I still got it." You know what I mean? And he looked at me with the most stone cold face. I'm like, "Holy shit, this guy's tough, man." We raced together in Ocean City in 2018, 19.
Yep, 18, I think.
And Rob needed somebody to run the boat. Ray couldn't get in. It was just too rough, and he was getting pretty old at that point. He didn't want to beat himself up anymore. So they asked me to drive. So we had and this is why I'm telling you, don't sleep on Smith Brothers. We're running into turn one. John Cohen was having an issue in Cisco. Now, I had raced against that boat for years in a green boat at that point. So in my mind, if I got a chance to go get him in a Class 6 boat, I'm going to do that because that's just...
Why are you picking on the man?
But Smith Brothers were smart, right? So Smith Brothers got up to him because he was having issues and then just rolled out of it and stayed there. So it was then they were side by side, and there's nothing I could do. I mean, I couldn't get around both of them. I couldn't find a line. So in my head, we're going into turn one, and I seen Smith Brothers went tight, Cisco went wide. Now I know John Cohen, if he's wide, it was an accident. Like that's not his style. So I knew he was coming back to the buoy. And I also know John won't let anybody by him. It don't matter what class, right? So he actually comes down and pinches Smith Brothers. As I watch this happen, I figure shoot for the buoy because all the commotion, they're forgetting where I am, right? I go down to the buoy. Well, you ain't pulling nothing on the Smith Brothers. They saw me coming. They hosed me down, shut the boat off. And I got to give it to him. Rob Merck, who you'd fall asleep on if you met him walking through the pits. He jumped in the bilge and dried out ignition connections and got it running again, and we got fired up and we kept running. But moral of the story, we came in second. We got back to the dock, and Ray and Dottie are standing there, and I get out of the boat, second place, right? I mean, we probably could have did a little better. I mean, I think we would have got Smith Brothers as the race went on, but that's nobody knows,
Racing.
right? That's racing, right?
Yeah.
We get to the dock, and I'm thinking we did pretty good. Ray looks at me and goes, I would have won. And I was like, man, like, come
Brutal.
on, buddy.
Ain't giving you an inch.
Come on. But, yeah, no, he's a tough bastard, that guy.
Man, speaking of Cohen, I think you got to get him on here, man.
John?
I think John Cohen Jr. would be a wild man on here.
He is a wild man.
He is a wild man. One of the great best dudes you ever want to talk to.
It's funny, man. He's one of my best friends.
Oh, is he?
One of my best friends. We had so much fun, and it's funny the way it happened. We hated each other. We absolutely hated each other. If you ask my brother right now, if you were to walk out in the shop and go, Aunt, you ever been mad enough to hit somebody in a boat? John Cohen. We hated each other. If we could have got back to him in Atlantic City, I'd have ran right through him. That's how pissed off I was at him. And I gave it back. I threw him out of his boat later on in Port Huron, Michigan, a couple of races later. But anyway, he came up to me after that race, and I was feeling pretty bad. It was a pretty dickhead move. Like, I left the door open on purpose, knowing I could come back and get it. And as he went down and slid down in there, I waited till that superboat was in a full slide and shut the door. And, I mean, it was a bad move. He put me in a real bad place in Atlantic City, so for me it was just giving it back. And the day and age, that was racing back then. Nowadays, people whine over lesser stuff, but
way lesser.
Yeah,
way lesser.
but
we don't need to go down that road.
He came up to me at the bar that night with 2 tequilas in his hand and spitting all over my face in true John Cohen style, and said we were even. And from that day on, we were best friends, man. And you're right, dude. I'd love to get him in here because he has what we all like. You look right past it with him, but we all strive to be like him in a boat. He's in my opinion, one of the people I respect the most as far as bracket class goes. He's all business. Doesn't matter if you're best friends, if you're whatever, he will run you as hard as you want to run him. And I can trust him. He's got all the skill in the world to run that boat. He grew up in super boats. I mean, he knows his shit. Yeah. I would love to have him in here, man. He's a real racer. He's one of us.
No, that's 100% accurate.
But anyway, we've been spending a lot of time talking about other people. There's a couple things I want to know about the Rum Runners team. Okay, where the hell did you guys come from?
You know, from the beginning?
Yeah,
let
dude.
Fran tell his story first.
I know
and I'll
you.
tell
I
mine.
know you've been a fan forever, but Fran, you jumped on the offshore circuit and just ran with it, dude.
Yeah.
So where did it come? I know you have some pleasure boats. I knew you've been playing with boats, but where did the offshore thing come from?
I mean, I was always a motorhead, always had a drag car, kept getting in trouble street racing and the whole 9 yards. Everybody's done it. But I kind of, same thing. I started to lose that high feeling. I was going, 10 O's and a quarter. Well, if you're not running 8s today, you're not fast. Right. So I lost that high. I had a kid coming then. I started going to more SBI races, flying to Key West all of the time. Started going to some races, and I was like, you know what? I remember sitting on that wall in Key West going, I got to do this. And the girl looked at me. She's like, you're an idiot. I'm like, no, I think I'm going to do it. She's like, you're an idiot. I'm like, whatever. So I went home. I started looking around. Goes back to Mike saying he's not superstitious, which I am. I hate the color red. Hate it. Everything I buy now is red. My favorite color all my life was blue. Everything I owned, blue trucks for my work. Everything was blue. It had to be blue. Now everything's got to be red. I don't know what happened. So I found a boat online, and I found a couple of them, and I contacted the guy out in Big Pine Key, and I said, I think I'm going to come out and look at your boat. And I gave him an offer, and he goes, if you're serious, come out. So I was like, all right. So the next day I woke up. I booked a flight at 4 a.m. in the morning, flew to Fort Lauderdale with my girl, jumped in a car, 100 mile an hour to Gilbert's, went to Big Pine Key, gave the guy $500, went for a ride, made it back to Jersey the same day. So I flew down and came back in the same day. And I called him up a day later, and he goes, what do you think? I said, I'll give you this much money. And before you know it, it was like right around Christmas time, I had the boat delivered to my house. And I called around, started feeling out some people, some good friends, some, thinking about who I'm going to put in it. And then I bumped into a guy, one of Mike's friends named Eddie. Alsheiser, I think his last name is.
Alshire. Yeah, he actually drove for me in 17.
Yep.
So
I
he drove
remember. Yep.
my boat in 17. Yep.
So I started feeling him out, and he was like, "I'll tell you what, man." He goes, "I'm into it, but I race for Mike, and why don't you talk to Mike? Maybe he can point you in a direction." So as soon as I started talking to him, I said, "Hey, maybe I think this is the guy I want in my boat with me. He seems like he knows some stuff." So before you know it,
Knows a thing or two. About
he
a thing or
chased
two.
me and chased me to put me, he wanted to be in my boat with me. And
yeah, that's exactly
You
how it's
know,
going down.
and-
Remember earlier the storytelling.
so, we kind of met the first race, and I think I was out in the Lake Apacon was my first run with the boat with him. And I think I was out there running 76 mile an hour in the boat. I was like, this thing's awesome, man. I love this. This is feeling great. And he was like, let's see how you do in the turn. And I'm like, yeah, wah, wah, wah. I'm like, this is awesome, man. This is like the shit. Before you know it, I had that race. I broke out 12 times. Everybody had a good time. I had a blast, but I didn't know no better.
Right.
And then I started listening to him more and, putting more effort into a lot of things. And he has a big part to do with what's going on with the whole program. And it's all about a program,
Yeah, it is. It is. And
I mean,
you do have a lot of credentials that you don't get the chance to talk about much.
It's not really my style to talk about
You
that kind
won't.
of stuff.
good.
But yeah, I mean, it all started with Fran was, I knew Eddie. Me and Eddie went back a little ways, and he drove my boat and my Pantera in Class 5, and everything. It was great. And then he kept saying, "Oh, there's this guy Fran. He bought the Rum Runner, and the boat belonged to Bobby, and it's been around forever. That boat's got, some credential on itself." I said, "Well, is he ever going to race it?" And he goes, "Well, he says he is. He says he's going to go to, I think it was Fall River was the race before. He's going to come to Fall River." Okay. Doesn't show up, and I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, and no offense to Fran, I didn't know him at the time, but
typical.
how many people do you hear, "Oh, I'm coming racing with my boat"?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that talk about racing, and
Everybody
then
in the bar Saturday night.
yes, and then there's the people that actually show up and race.
Yep.
So, didn't show up Fall River that year. Okay, no big deal. Then it was like a Pacon, and I said, "Is he showing up or what?" He goes, "I don't know. He said he was." And it was a Thursday. I'll never forget this. We were heading up. And I said, "Call him right now and tell him if he doesn't get his boat there, that he must not be serious about boat racing." Sure enough, boat shows up, not ready to race at all.
Uh-huh.
No offense, Fran.
As they all show
no
up.
communication was
No,
out.
we
there.
had no intercom. We had no fire extinguishers. We had no anything.
Uh-huh.
No life jackets. And it's like, what are we going to do? And
Hey, hang on.
Yeah,
he
I
had
had
life
life
jackets.
jackets.
He had life
he had
jackets.
one of them like West Marine.
No, I
blow
did
up
not.
and
I want a lifeline
like
talker.
he's getting ready to go bass boat fishing,
Come
know.
on,
And
Jesus.
so no, he shows up and we work on the boat all day and we get in the boat and the whole time I love this stigma about boat racing that it's maybe it goes back to the 70s and 80s and even 90s is an inexperienced throttleman, he's gonna kill you and that's
yeah,
dangerous.
uh-huh.
And I looked at someone that told me that you're gonna get in the boat with him, he's never throttled. And I said, yeah. He goes, what happens if you don't know what you're doing? He said,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna turn.
That's it.
He goes, what? And I said, we're just gonna go straight. We're just gonna go for a boat ride. At that point, the race is over. And they're like, well, he's gonna put you in a bad spot. I said, I have the steering wheel. And what's funny about that is I throttled my boat. I raced my boat the first 2 times I drove, and we got into a pretty violent spin out in Inglewood. Ended our weekend and beat the guy up who was throttling the boat for me pretty bad. And I had never really driven a boat since then. I mean, I drove pleasure boats and stuff, but so we got in a race, and it's like, you know what you're doing over there? Yeah, I got this figured out, and it ended up working out good. Instant click. It's kind of weird, to be honest with you. I say that's like the hardest part of boat racing is finding a partner that's as committed as you are. And that's not like a slight at anybody or anything like that, but so many people get into it, and it's like they're into it 100%, but then they got a guy, oh, I can't drive that weekend. Oh, it's far away. Everything about getting to a boat race is terrible, to be honest. But if you're committed, then that's 90% of the battle.
Well, and you said the right word there is click, right? And I think you could switch that out for, when people, I'm a big fight fan, right?
Okay.
And like they'll talk about a new fighter and say he has it, it's like its own thing. Like there's just something about this dude that nobody can figure out, right? it's like the same thing in boat racing. Like there's a thing that happens when a team gels and runs well together, and it's just what you said. It just clicks, and how you said it's not a slight towards anyone. It's not. No. Sometimes it just doesn't. I've been fortunate over the years to run with a lot of phenomenal people, but I've seen the opposite quite a bit, where you get a guy that comes into sport, hot to trot, ready to rock and roll, tons of money in the boat, and then just one and done. Just doesn't. They never gel. They never, and you guys seem to have developed a really, really great team.
Yep. And it started with, so we went to that first race, terrible, breakout city, but he was hooked afterwards. I knew he was hooked from the minute he got out of the boat. It was, what do we need to do to be better? And so we finished the race. I want to say, did you break I think he broke something in the cylinder head that race we finished. I want to say, did you break a head bolt? A couple head bolts.
I did.
We had some problems, and he pulled the head off the boat right away. And I want to say at that time, it was a quick turnaround to Inglewood, maybe like 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks.
Yeah,
maybe.
Lake
all
of
the years
Pacong's
blend.
always late in September.
Yep.
So
it was 3 weeks. I remember yesterday.
And he's like, "What am I gonna do?" I was like, "Well,
go home and fix it."
I said, "Go home and fix it." He looked at me. I was crazy. I was like, "I'll come up and help." And to his credit, I said, "You get everything ready, and I'll come up and help." And so we came up on a Saturday. Spent all Saturday. We got the boat back together, got it running. Went to Inglewood, and first day was so-so. I don't remember, maybe a third or a fourth. And I remember this very blatantly. We got our ass kicked by Bocchino and Warren on Sunday, and that was when, all right, we got to go to work because it's not a good feeling to get your ass kicked.
No,
and
not.
I remember we're running it too loose, trimmed up. And I'd look around the course and I'd see him. And we'd run like hell for a lap. And I'd put some time on him. I'd be like, yeah, all right, yeah, we're going to figure this one out. And then the next turn, they had pulled out. They were spotting us and probably laughing the whole time.
Right.
Which, like I'm self-motivated. So all I need to know is that you're toying with me at this point.
Right.
And so we went back, ended up blowing the boat to bits. It was destroyed after that race, running it too loose. And we went to work, and that next year we're gonna beat them, and that was our goal, So
right, which at the time was a big feat.
Oh
so
yeah,
just
they won everything.
Years pass in offshore, and it seems that like memories fade pretty quickly. But for you to come in there and run with Bocchino there, who I just happened to have had on the show, Mike was a force in Class 6.
Oh, yeah.
He was a weird one where. At the time, I still had a boat for 6. So I was looking at that going, maybe that's somebody I want to go chase because the boat had a natural hook in the bottom. And he didn't have a whole lot of horsepower in it. So he could stand on it and the boat would act right. The hook would put it back over where he didn't need a pile of weight like the rest of us did. The boat would just kind of run right in the rough. And he was tough to get around, man. When I drove his boat, the hardest thing to figure out was the hook. Like you'd get it in a turn, and there was a fine line between bleeding 20 miles an hour off and keeping the speed up. There was a very fine line. But in the rough, man, he was tough to chase down. And you guys went and put a spanking on him the following year. I believe it was what was the Florida race we ran that year? The one I'm particularly picking out. You guys went to battle with him.
Florida race.
It was big.
Was rough.
It was big. Was it Coco maybe? I don't know if his boat was there. This was prior to Coco. This was probably 18. I watched you guys go fight it out. I can't remember the exact.
I think it was that Inglewood, and they beat us pretty. I mean, I think we made them run, but they had us covered for sure.
That year I remember. But there's one particular, and the only reason why I remember it so well is because when Mike asked me to drive his boat and Point Pleasant was coming up, there was some revenge in that from a following. How nice. There was some revenge in that. He wanted to come back and get you guys, but it just unfortunately his boat where he shined was the rough, and the boat felt it. I mean, it came apart in Inglewood that year when we ran it.
You know what's kind of funny though is you kind of like draw parallels and stuff, and he kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, yeah, he had a 7 boat, that super boat he ran, and Bocchino's. Once you get to know him, he's a great guy, one of the best. And he kind of came out of nowhere though. He had that Class 7 boat, raced it once or twice, had that Corsa that sunk in Solomon's. I was there
talk
for
about
that.
Bad luck, man.
Yeah, man. The best story from that is when they were beaching it, and they picked this sandy part of the beach, and there's little kids out swimming, and they're standing on the bow. Get out of the way, kids! Get out of the way! And they just beach it right on like a public beach. But then he got the red boat that's winter or that next year, and went out and won and out of nowhere.
Yeah, he had a hot streak if there ever was one.
Was that 2 seasons of that or 3?
where
I mean, it was
almost just untouchable for 2 straight years, and then came you guys. So it was just an interesting the way it all turns, the way and I want to see that happen again, and I want to see it while you guys are still there, and that's why I'm so excited, and that's why I'm asking you your competition questions, stuff like that, because right now I think Class 6 is like a powder keg. Like, there's you guys, Smith Brothers, Moderation, Punch and Hulls, ST Racing, Smith Brothers. I mean,
Jesse and Rob.
Jesse and Rob, you start going down the list, and it's like any one of these boats can take it today, but they have to take it from you, is the mentality. And that is like my favorite thing in boat racing, is when that starts to happen. Like right now in Superstock, everybody's looking at Torrente, going, that's the guy we got to go get, right? How cool is it to be sitting in that seat, and how hard is it to defend it?
You want to take this one? I've been talking a lot.
No, I mean, he stays on top of me, so it's like
Status quo almost.
it's tough because, I mean, you know what it's like. I mean, your dad's got your own business, and same with me, and he's just like, dude, tick-tock. That's
Right.
all he says. Or out of the blue, I just get a random text, is it done? And I'm like, dude, I just got home from work. I'm like having conversations with myself in my own boat. Like, and then I put the phone up here, and I'm like, do you hear me, Mike? I'm in here wrenching, man. Where you at? But it's great. He stays on top of me.
Right.
So, I mean, he could probably answer that a little bit more, but yeah, he's
So my thing with Class 6 is this. I get it to the average person at home. And I don't want to say that, because the average person at home, it's so humbling when you meet people, when you go out and you're at these venues. They don't want a Miss Geico and a 50-foot Mystic. I mean, they're awesome to look at. But so many people you meet, they go, man, I want a Class 6 boat or a Class 5 boat, or, a Class 7 boat even. I mean, it's like the everyman's class. Because someone 30 years old, moderately successful, even 25 or early 20s, who has a little bit of money, if they're passionate about it, you can go race, and honest to God, if you're truly committed to doing it, you can be successful with a moderate budget, go race, have fun, and win. And so I hear a lot of some of the slighting of, well, it's bracket racing. You're only going 70. And I get that it's maybe not glamorous. It doesn't have the wow factor of a Tilt Myco with, a big, beautiful boat on it. I get that. But if you historically go back and look at the barn burner races, it's Class 6, Class 5, Class 7. I mean, in Lotto this year, could throw a blanket over us. Lotto in 19, throw a blanket over us. Where else this year? Maybe not Sarasota. I mean, but there's races. Every race is Class 6. What are they? Oh, they're 4 boats apart for the whole race.
Yeah.
And people don't understand, and the tough part of getting them why can't they just smash the gas and go buy them? That's part of the beauty of watching the race.
Yeah.
It's maybe not glamorous and shiny, but if you're a real racer, you can appreciate that.
Well, and also, I think not many people can look at Geico and go, okay, I kind of understand that.
I'm going to go be I'm an electrician by trade, so, I'm go be a plumber, electrician. I'm going to go buy a 50-foot Mystic, or
well, and not just,
50-foot,
not even
it
so
is,
much
Victory.
the funds. People can't relate to it. When you see Geico, and even me, I've been around this literally my entire life, and I look at Geico and it looks like an alien object. I don't understand how any of it works. I mean, I could break it down. I mean, I could figure it out. But when you look at it, it doesn't make sense to me, right? When I see your boat roll by, I know every inch of that, right? And to me, I'm in awe. I'm looking at how you mounted the tabs, why you went with the long ones instead of the short ones. Why is this here? Why is that there? When I look at Geico, I just go, that's pretty, right? And it's no slight towards Geico. It's just how many of us.
You can't even compare the two. Not to cut you off, I apologize, but
No.
you can't even begin to compare the two, because everybody's like airtime. And don't get me wrong, everybody's a racer. Everybody's got their own niche. Some people like white chocolate. Some people like dark chocolate. But that's their thing, and this is our thing. But I know what it takes to put the time into my boat. They should know the same thing with them. But I can tell you now that they sit in that boat with them suspension seats, and they're like, there's the throttle. So what are you doing tomorrow night? Where are you eating at?
Well,
And I'm like, oh, you all right? And he's like, you good? You good? The gauges. We're yelling back and forth. There's like so
100%.
much more adrenaline and so much more. I'm not saying
I think
I'm better than them and they're better than me, but
I think where the disconnect is, as far as how a lot of people think about the bigger boats, is there's just not that many other bigger boats. Like, imagine if you went to a race in Class 6 where there was 4 boats, and of 4, maybe 1 could run with you that day, and chances are it's not going to, right? That's there every day. And I don't ever take anything away, even going all the way back to when Mark and Scotty were running it with the turbines. I never took anything away from what they did, because I knew in their heart they wish there was somebody else to run against.
They can't make the competition come out, or someone built like, and it's just like that in class. It's any boat racing. You can only race the competition.
Right.
Whatever's out there, that's who you have to race.
Well, and no disrespect, but like Bob Bull wasn't interested in racing Geico. He hated every second of racing against Geico. Same thing with Dave Scott. If you look back at all the who's who big boat names of the over the years, not many people have wanted to race Geico. And I don't know if it was the whole turbine power all those years versus a lot of people were piston, or what the case may be, but when you boil it down, the average fan looks at Geico and it's a spaceship. The average fan can look at your boat and relate. I was on a buddy's boat 10 years ago that looked like that boat, and I know how crazy it was. What did everybody tell you? 30 miles an hour I was going. It felt like 100,
now,
right?
Hold on. Set the beer on the dash. Never spilled a drop. That's my favorite Scarab boat story. So it's a Scarab, Larry Smith Scarab, and that's my favorite. If it's a Scarab, I don't know what it is. I'm probably offending a bunch of Scarab owners. They say they can set the beer on the dash in 3-footers and never spill a drop. It's my favorite Scarab boat story.
And you hear it from everybody.
Everybody.
What's funny is everybody has an opinion. If you went to all those same people and asked them about Geico, they'd have no clue. Just no clue. Nobody knows how it works. Nobody knows. And I'm using Geico, which really I probably shouldn't be singling
Maybe
somebody
too
out.
soon.
But it could be any of those big boats. You look at a Super Cat, you look at a Super Stock, you look at Instigator and Hurricane of Awesomeness Tugget. You look at any one of those boats, as gorgeous and amazing as they are, they're something you take a picture with and you keep it moving, right? When you get to the bracket class stuff, that's when you see those people stop. They want to climb on the trailer and look in and see what you did, because they got something that's like that, or their buddy has something that's like that. So in many, many ways, you're 100% correct, because I think more people will connect with what we do versus what they do. And so in many ways, the bracket classes are more important than the bigger classes. It's just you can't have one without the other. Like, I think it's almost a worthless argument when that comes along on Facebook or something like that, where you see
that a lot.
You see that
It's
all
a
the
shame.
time. Like, who cares about the bracket class boats? And I'm like, listen, guys, if you understood it even for a second, you would never say something like that.
I had a pretty. I'm not going to say any names, but I had a guy right straight from an organization come right up to me, sit right next to me, and tell me plain out, like, "Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, you guys are bracket races. You're not going to be around much longer." I'm like, "What are you talking about? We've been here since the '70s. What are you talking about?"
Something tells me that came from a guy that won't be around for much longer.
Yeah, I just didn't even know, but it's crazy to see. But I don't agree on. I disagree with a lot of things. Like, you just can't go and build a boat. Mike said it to me a million times, and I 100% agree with him. But I'm saying this: you can't just go build a boat out of the blue and then put it out there in its own class and have one boat in it. You need to build the boat for the classes that are already there.
Right.
Might not be saying it right, but I think that's pretty much what you entailed. And it's
I'm not taking credit for this. This came from your father.
It's true,
but
though. It's
you
100%
build a
true.
boat for the class. You don't build a class for the boat.
Right.
And when you get away from that, or when you start trying to make exceptions, it does muddy the water. And consistency in the classes is what grows them. No one wants to go out. I mean, we'll use SVO for an example. No one wants to go out and spend, I don't know, you buy a boat for 150, or you put it together for 150, 200 grand or more, and then in a year, well, you know what? We used to only allow 30s, now it's 32s, and I'm not picking on any boat in particular with that. Next year it'll be 33s, or now the 32s aren't allowed, and you have to be consistent. And if you lose one or two, but you're consistent, you will gain way more. And those one or two you lost didn't really matter. I mean, I don't want to say didn't matter, but then they weren't into it.
Well, you were going to lose one or two anyway.
Yeah.
And it's the same thought process when you look at the two V-Light. Well, I always call them V-Light, and now it's so screwy. But the Pro Stock V guys and the Modified V guys, the conversation's always how do we combine the two? And my thought process on it is if you have 10 boats in this class and 10 boats in this class and you put it together, you're still going to have 10 boats. Because in each class, out of 10, 5 were your competitive pack. Yep. The other 5 were the guys that were either just there for the good time or just learning, right? Or whatever the case may be.
Over the hill.
When you go like this, you get the 5 front runners from each class that stay and the other 5 that fall away. And now what used to be 20 boats is now 10 boats. It just doesn't work. We've tried it over and over and over again in the last 20 years with multiple different applications, and it just doesn't work. You can't adapt. Same thing with guys like, for instance, I respect the shit out of Vinny Diorio's decision to put the Merc 860s in the Supercat. I think every Supercat should think about the Merc 860s. I love the thought process of building your own motors, but it's so hard to police. And for a long time, they got away with it because Sterling, D'Annabelle was building a lot of the Supercat motors. There was maybe a handful of other engine builders that were involved. So you could look at those engine packages and know they were pretty honest because it's not like D'Annabelle's going to build a hot set for this guy when he's supplying, motors for the rest of the class. He's not going to get himself in that water. But looking at it now, the price of these carbureted engines to make the horsepower that these guys are making at a bare bones cubic inch, right? It's getting ridiculous. You're talking $85,000, $90,000 every time you need a fresh set, right? Bare minimum. Yeah. And you didn't explode anything. Those Merc motors seem to just run and run and run, and they're sealed packages. Like, I love what he did, but the conversation of can we ever mate the two? Can we ever see how it would pair up against the carbureted motor? You can't do that either. You can't. It just doesn't work. You need, to Mike's point, you need the consistency. Every boat needs to be the same and running the same shit. And that's where bracket class came from. When you get to a point where you can't do that anymore, bracket class is the best option.
We're always going to be there, I believe. I really, truly believe it's going to be there no matter what.
Absolutely, because it's a I don't want to use the term like tried and true, but it's like the most like no-brainer thing that Offshore's ever had. Like, bracket class is the smartest way to go about having 90 different boats all trying to be competitive with each other. You go back to the days of everybody ran an HP 500, and if you were too fast, we added weight to your boat, and if you were too slow, we took weight out of your boat, and you had this mixed-matched hodgepodge of who's racing who. It didn't make any sense. The bracket class, I know everybody, to your point, is saying, well, they're only running 70. Yeah, but they're all running 70 10 feet from each other. Would you rather see me open this up and now you got Fran running 95 miles an hour while my green boat would only run 77, 78? It's not a monster. You know what I mean? It's a monster to 70.
And to your point, I think with the bracket boats is if you need 1,000 to go 70 and be competitive, well, horsepower is the cheapest thing you can buy in a boat. That might sound like a crazy statement, but work on a few V-lights and you're trying to, I see your boat sitting out there in a million pieces now.
Literally a million pieces.
And you got a week and a half to put it together. But it's, if you need more horsepower, buy it. If you need more cubic inch, buy it.
Right.
If you need, your boat's heavy, well, taking weight out of a boat's expensive. I've been down that road a few times. If you need more power to make it to be competitive, there's no rule saying you can't do it.
Right.
So that's easy to go about it.
Yeah.
And what's funny is someone brought it up to me a while back about all the newer spec classes, Supercat 750, and I don't really want to talk on their. I don't race Supercat. I've sat in a few. That's about all I got. And same with Superstock. And I've raced some in V-Lights. I have some experience there. But I almost feel like you need a reset. I know that sounds crazy, and so I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of heat for, I'm an idiot. I've never been to Supercat.
No.
How do I know? But right now, you got guys that have ran them carbureted 750s for, they used to be like 12.5 to 1. Now they're 10 or whatever. But 10 years, right? Nah, 2013 maybe.
What, since the motor switch?
Yeah, well, since he
Yeah.
went down in compression, they used to crank them like
Yep.
7,600
Yep.
and run them 12.5 to 1. But when they went to the pump gas, you have guys that have a 10-year head start on a new guy coming in. So you have a guy that's got some money, wants to build a boat. I can think of a few boats. I'm not going to blow them out there, but they don't have a relationship with the Annabelle. And I'm not saying the Annabelle's not giving everyone the same thing, but if you know your package and you know how to squeeze every last thing out of it, you got a 10-year advantage on the next guy. And
Yeah.
so maybe a great reset, hey, we're all going to these Merc 860s or we're all going to whatever. It doesn't matter what we're putting in there. Maybe there's okay, we're all back on the level playing field. Those props that them 33s that I ran every race, I don't have them 33s anymore. I need 34s.
I 1,000,000% agree with that. And I also think that the reset translates into the hulls as well. So, for instance, I think there needs to be a reset in a lot of classes for how the hulls are policed in the organization. So, like, for instance, and I hate putting anybody on the spot, but you look at, like, Torrente, right? And I know he gets a lot of shine right now. He's out in front. He's got the target on his back. And that target is the heaviest thing he carries, okay? You'll either have people saying he's only winning because he's in the brand new boat. He's only winning because he's got, DeWalt sponsors him, right? So he's got the hottest propellers.
Yeah, but you know what's so fun?
Bullshit.
Not to cut you off on that. He'll win a race and sell you the propellers right off his boat.
Absolutely.
I've heard him say it straight to my face.
Listen, if anybody watching this doesn't know who Sean Torrente is, just go look at the In the Lead podcast that Speed on the Water does. They just detailed Sean Torrente, okay? And the guy's probably one of the more talented racers we have, period.
And he comes from a tunnel boat background, and so he has that. I don't want to say Offshore has there's a lot of technological advances, but tunnel boat racing has some real technological advances.
It's a pinnacle. And if you need any more evidence, just look at the synonymous names in Offshore, okay? Look at your Benny Robinsons, look at your Tim Seabolds, look at all the Seabolds for that matter. Look at Reggie Fountain. Look at most of these guys. Where does every V-bottom guy go for his propellers? Mark Wilson. Okay, tunnel boat guy. You start to go down the list. All of the innovation in this sport, 99% of it came from guys running smaller stuff like tunnel boats, okay? Look at your go back to the days of the big cats and open class, or where you have your shadows, your cougars, your super boats. All these guys started small. They all started small. You look at Rich Lures and George Linder building the shadow products back in the day. They came from running the smaller APBA classes. So it's all about that technology. It's the fine tuning everything. Everybody's got the same motor. How do I get a little bit of an edge over this guy? And that's where Sean comes from.
And I think that stems from, you have a little boat, you have a 11-foot boat or a 13-foot boat. You make a small change, and maybe it equates to a bigger step. Where you have a big boat and you make a small change, you need 10 of them small changes to make that step.
Yeah.
It really opened my eyes when we went inducted in the Hall of Champions in 19. I talked to Jimmy Shane. Have you ever talked to him?
No.
Jimmy Shane's he races the unlimited hydroplanes. He's actually from Maryland originally, and he lives out in Washington State now. But he's like an aeronautical engineer type guy. And if I'm misspeaking, I apologize. But you want to talk about a sharp guy that knows the ins and outs of boats. If he would be like a Torrente if he got in a super stock or a V. I mean, I bet you would see some creative things because those guys think outside the box.
Right. And so, not to get too far away from the point of the reset, right? So thinking back to that whole point of the head start to this to that, the other big issue right now is technology is advancing, and it's advancing faster right now than it has in recent years. I won't go as far as saying ever, okay? There was a big boom in the 90s, okay? But you look at right now, the things that people are doing with hull compression and what they're learning with steps and what people are doing. Look at the Phantoms. And I don't mean to just say Phantom. I mean, Lily's got his Extreme program rolling now, but you look at the speed we're finding in these little boats that was never there, right? And why? Propellers are getting better. Bottom technology is getting better. You have these people like you're talking about, your hydrodynamic guys, your aerodynamic guys that are starting to get involved in the sport. Going as recent as 2018, 18 maybe, we had a project going with the AMH Supercat in wind tunnels at NASA and CAD drawings of it to understand, how the wind's getting over the deck. And you're starting to see a lot of science in the sport right now because it's got some traction right now. But the big problem is, look at what's going on versus what the sport can afford, right? So when you see like Torrente's boat come out, and everybody that wants to just throw their towel in and go, well, we're never going to catch that, because they can't spend $600,000 to find out. They don't know if it's the boat. They don't know if it's him. They don't know if it's. So I think when you say reset, we have to think about the homologation aspects of what we do. Okay, when you look at like the new 450 class where Randy Chisholm is now, there's a lot of boats being built for that. And I'm excited about that because there's a class that's starting out on the right foot, homologated hulls. So there's a jig that fits the bottom that any boat that's built from now forward has to fit that jig. So there can't be too many changes to the bottom of the boat, because you wind up in a situation like Superstock where your leading pack is going to be who recently bought a boat. And that's a shame. It should never be that way. It's supposed to be stock class racing, right? It's supposed to be everybody has the same shit, okay? And then you take your skill and you add that into the equation, and your couple of tricks you're allowed to do without getting too far into gray areas, right? And you're not seeing that in offshore right now. Right now you're seeing a checkbook style racing right now, and it's a shame because there's so many people that are so talented in all those classes where just a little bit of thought process 20 years ago, we would be in such a cool place right now.
Yep, I agree to that 100%. And I mean, I hate to even say that class because, I mean, it's obviously a big class. It's booming. You look at engines, though. I mean, the 300XS is a great engine, but that's not where the technology is going. And I hate to see it. It's like they made a step from the 280s and the old 25s, and I get that. But, and again, I'm probably going to get flamed for this. But,
that's all right.
Like new 300. Okay, it's heavier. It's not this. It's not that. I mean, it's something you can get. I mean, in 5 years, are people that have spent $600,000 on a boat thrilled to go, you know what, that engine package doesn't work anymore. I mean, when they came out with the 300 and 15 or 16, it was immediately like, well, we're discontinuing the 300 XS now, and it goes back to the old 2.5 rule where people were, selling their firstborn for old spare blocks and heads laying around, and I saw it firsthand back then. It was, you would sell your kid off if someone had some stock blocks laying around you could buy, didn't have windows in them. And I hate to see, like, it was a step forward to go to the 300, but as soon as they made that step, you had a whole nother flight ahead of you. You were behind.
Well, and they're working on it. I know that I don't know exact names and whatnot, but I know there's a few key people in that class that have set up a deal with Mercury to develop a 15-inch midsection for the 300R to eventually make that leap. And I think that when that happens, you're going to see a very different stock class there. You're going to see a different super stock because you're going to get away from the 2-stroke power band and into the 4-stroke power band where it's all low-end torque, not that.
And then immediately, all them props, you're kind of back to square one because you're not screaming that thing. I think they turned 6,000 or something close to that. But
right. I think the RPMs will be close, but it's different power. Whereas the motors they're running now are making all their power up top. The motors they'll be going to are making most of the torque down low. So it'll be interesting to see who finds the key line. You know what I mean? Who starts to figure out those motors?
Well, and then the question would be, does that change the style of racing? Because then you get to can you dive bomb the guy on the inside because you had the torque to dig out of it?
And that's been my complaint with Pro Stock from day one, is it's just not enough horsepower. And I know that it's almost cliche coming from me because it's the guy that came from Horsepower Central, right? That wants more horsepower. But I do believe it would change the racing. Like, you're seeing a lot of contact in Pro Stock. You're seeing guys getting together, hitting each other, making, kind of making bonehead moves in some places because you just can't afford to lift, right? Well, if you had a little power to where you could turn the boat, you could set the boat, turn the boat, push it through a line, I think you'd see better racing. With the guys running in there wide open now, just hanging on for dear life, hoping it comes out the other end of the turn. And that's what it is, folks, just to let you into it. They're hoping. They're hoping they make it out the other end. And it's dangerous, and I think it's awesome it's awesome for the fans to see that out of control style racing, but I think you'd see that group tighten up with a little horsepower. There's a lot of people that are tentative to put themselves in a bad position going into the turn, me being one of them. I mean, in Morehead City, we had just seen in the first race of 2020 where Kyle Miller and Steve Papp got together coming out of the turn. There's like an infamous video there.
Yep.
Then you got you fast forward to Point Pleasant, Kyle Miller and Chris Uzi getting together in turn 3 and 4 in Point Pleasant. I mean, it's endless. Fast Boys jump
and Uzi
and
with
Uzi
the jump.
with
Yep.
the jump
That was
in
in Moorhead.
in
Where he
Moorhead.
jumped off
Yeah.
over the Fast Boys.
Yeah, I mean it's happening way too often, and it's not so much that the guys are just willing to hit each other. That's like the first thing everybody goes to. Well, you got to talk to these guys. It's not that. We're in a situation where none of us want to lift, all of us want to win, and you're in these boats that have no reaction whatsoever. Like if you start to lose it, there's no recovery. There's nothing. There's nobody home. You'll be halfway through the turn, and I'm screaming at my old man, "Come on, man, give it back to me!" And he's wide open. He's been wide open. He's been wide open for a quarter mile, and there's just nobody home. Power changes a lot, and I think to your point, I think you're right. I think you see a reset in those classes, a little change up on the back end of the boat, and
I just trying to get 2 racers to agree on anything is tough, let alone 10 or 12.
well,
or 20,
and then
but-
involve money. Then
Yeah.
involve money. It's impossible.
But these
And-
guys, we're at that. They're at that point with the 525. Again, I don't race in the class, so feel free to give me a hard time about it. But I see it, and all these guys have 525s. You can't get parts. You can't buy a crank sensor from Mercury and LA. Tried to buy one the other day. Not happening.
right.
And so you get to the point where, okay, when is it time to retire the motor and go to something else? And I'm not even saying Mercury. I'm just saying in general, they might need a new package. And these guys have, to build that kind of power, they have money in those motors. The 525
Yeah.
is starting to kind of be a
I think-
horsepower class to a extent.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's
there's
getting there.
pretty strict rules, but there's guys finding ways to make power.
You know what I think saved it, and I don't disagree with you. I think what saved it is the stock ECU program. Having the ECUs burned every year, and then randomly through the season, like in Michigan City, we grabbed the top 3 and had
Yep.
them check to make sure it's a stock burn in the computer. There's not too much you can do that's not obvious to make power. You can make a little bit, like going through, just setups in the motor, different, I don't want to get too far
Sure,
into it.
yeah.
Okay.
Be a snooze fest listening to
Yeah,
this one.
but you can make some power, but it's minimal. It's minimal until it's obvious, right? And then once it's obvious, you're going to get caught. 2-3 races in, you're going to get caught. I don't think anybody's playing at that high of a level, but it's coming. It's coming. Guys are getting more and more comfortable. They're massaging this, massaging that. They're getting where they want to be with their
and
numbers.
they're getting desperate to win. I mean, that class, you want to talk about some of the most competitive
Die
guys.
hard.
We got them in bracket class racing, but those SVL guys want to win.
Yeah, they're the real deal, man.
And-
And I think, to your point, when you say the 525's getting there, I agree. And I think it's just been too many years of dragging feet to think that the 565 is an option anymore. Looking at the 565, you got to think how long that's been in production. That was just after 2010, 11,
Yeah,
right? So
it's 10 years old now.
it's
at this
10 years
point.
old now. So what happens? We all sell the 525s tomorrow. There's good money in the 525s. I mean, not nearly what most of us have into it. Rebuilds at this point aren't factory rebuilds. It costs you some money. But you could probably get 15, 20 for one of our race 525s. If you got that far, how much further do you have to go for the 565? But then how long do we have before Mercury rolls out the 580? Right? And now, you know what I mean? And then you shoot yourself in the foot. You wound up with a 10-year-old package. I think what needs to happen for that class is the obvious choice needs to come along. Once the obvious choice shows up, I think that group of guys, they fight with each other quite a bit, just as anybody else does. But at the end of the day, they all work towards a common goal. They all want an awesome class.
Yep.
And I think once the obvious choice presents itself, you'll see that happen.
So is it a bad idea to merge some classes together? Maybe merge that class together with the SVLX?
I think at that point, it would be a good idea. I think if the obvious choice came along and there was some carb guys that were willing to make the jump, I could see that happening at that point and just fold the two. But I think the tough part is right now, a lot of people like the carbureted setup. It's a little bit more power. they're really, at the end of the day, it's a little more air, right? I mean, that's really what it is. You look at the carb motor versus the 525. Is there
They're the
some
same horsepower?
They're close. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I've heard crazy numbers. I've heard a 700, 730, but who's really? I mean, at that point,
I had a 509 with some high compression. It was like in the sixes.
right? I mean, so
Low.
if they're saying they're making even 680, 690, if that's what they're making, how long is it going to last? Because you got that thing stretched. You know what I mean? To the point of where
Not conservative
it ain't
anymore.
going to last. Yeah. So I think if you look at it, there's not too big of a difference between the two classes, but I do think there's a lot of people that enjoy playing. They, and you can't, and I'm in no way passing judgment on the carb guys, but I do think building your own motor, you know what I mean, playing in the gray areas that are afforded to you by the rule book, that's all within your reach. If there's a rule that's not written and you're taking advantage of it, and until somebody writes that rule, it's fair game. And I think people like playing in that ball field. It's not me, but I think there's a solid amount of people that enjoy that, going home, pulling their stuff out, wrenching on it, putting it back on the dyno, finding some more power. That's cool, man. I dig it. But there has to be a sealed program like the 525s where they were. I mean, not so much anymore, but, finding that stock horsepower where you have the confidence that the guy next to you is running the same shit you are. That's got to be there still.
And that's going to grow the class, honestly. I know we're a long ways from bracket talk now, but it's I feel like if you want people to, I don't want to say take it serious, because the people that are in it definitely take it serious, but if you want people to start looking at it like, oh, what's this boat racing about, there has to be a clean-cut rule of, all right, how I want to buy a new SVL, I'm going to buy a new 30 Phantom Extreme, whatever the case might be. Where are you going to get an engine? Well, what you're going to do is you're going to find this guy. He's got an old 525. It's probably blown up or on the verge of being blown up. You want to buy that from that guy. Then you want to send it over here, get it rebuilt. And you're talking to a guy that's got 200 grand, 150 grand buying a boat. And,
dude,
what do you want me to do? You want me to buy this old 2004? Yeah, the 04, they're the better ones. Get one of them. And then do all, you're going to lose the guy before he even starts.
Yeah.
I mean, how many more of those motors out there? They're still running them into the
people
dirt.
pull them out of everywhere. I don't know where they come from.
They're around, but it's exactly what you're saying. Like when I was putting mine together, I spent $12,000 on a motor that dropped a valve and destroyed itself just because it had all the original seals on it. Like that's because it wasn't bored, it wasn't molested. It's still a good piece, even though it's blown up. And I went, all the way to New Hampshire.
I might even sent you the link to that.
I think you
might
did.
even said, hey, man, I know you're looking for a 525 in intake or something. And he goes, that guy has the whole motor. I'm buying it.
With exhaust that's been
Yep.
leaking for God knows how long.
Heads that are rotted out.
Dude, and
Good to go.
and we pay for it. And it's exactly what you're saying. You get a new guy, no way. They're not going for that.
Like if you look at dirt cars, and I blame, Bill Allen a little bit for this. He got me into these dirt cars. He stole $100 from me in a bet. And now I'm hooked on these dirt cars. And, they have like a crate motor class where you call one place, you get the motor, you set it in the car, that's what you race. You don't mess with anything. And I really think we need a class like that. Because even the super stock, those guys can rebuild them themselves. There's no factory seal on them.
Nope.
You can send them to whoever and have them built, and there's probably gray areas they're playing with too.
Yeah.
I can't speak from any.
That's
I have
another one.
zero evidence to back that up, but you watch some boats and other boats off the start, and it's hard to say that they're all pushing the same power.
That's another one where we put the stock ECUs on.
Yep. And that is some level of a playing field.
It's there. I mean, listen, anybody who's good with engines in any way, in any avenue, okay, whether that be the outboards or the inboards, okay, can find their way around a stock tune. I mean, it depends on how much you want to play, how hard you want to look into this, okay? And at a certain extent, the organization's hands are tied because I'm not speaking for the organization, but in my head, how are you supposed to disassemble somebody's shit the day before a race? Okay? Just think about the logistics of that. I understand it's what probably needs to happen. I understand it's what everybody wants to happen. But now think about it. You take somebody's motor apart and you don't find anything, and you put it all back together and that motor blows up tomorrow, whose fault is it? It doesn't matter whose fault it actually is or what actually happened, but whose fault it'll be is OPA's for taking it apart, right? So you have that. You have the other 8 out of 10 people that don't know how to rebuild their own stuff. So now we take it all apart. We're not going to put it back together. We got 8 more boats to look through.
So why would you not just check them after the race
So now here's where...
and hire an outside person that has no affiliation to anything?
Okay, you hit two important ones there. One important word is hire.
Coming in hot.
So
Sorry.
hire's a problem.
Sorry.
Until we wind up with some money rolling around in this sport, hire's always going to be a touchy word. The other thing is, after the race, what does it accomplish? And now, I agree it's a double-edged sword. There's 2 styles of thought. There's Smitty's style of thought where if it went on the race course and I checked it afterwards, I put a hot boat out on the race course. That's not where tech happens. Tech happens prior to the race. And I understand that. I also understand the theory of taking them apart afterwards, and if you catch somebody, you strip the win, you fix the points. But in the meantime, you screwed a bunch of people, right? So now think about it like this. Say you're running a bracket class race, you're fighting hard with Smith Brothers, and Jesse and Rob are chewing on your transom, and it's the world championship, and after the race, we disqualify you for something, right? Now, that is kind of how it happens in bracket class. There's only one technical rule to break out. We can't enforce prior. We have to enforce after. But think about how you being in that spot might have screwed Jesse and Rob from going after Smith Brothers. That's the same thing you do when you catch somebody cheating.
But what about the guy that's putting in 110% and they show up at a race and they just got their tail handed to them by somebody that is running a hot something,
right?
Whether it be a motor or anything, whatever, computer, any class, it doesn't matter. And then you have the guy that finished maybe second or third could have placed first or second.
Well, and I agree. And I think
or then you just got to get rid of everything and then go back to the sealed motor like you said.
Well, and so that's where you end up chasing your tail. And so I think that the tech has been good in the last year or two. The tech stepped up. Like, for instance, in Pro Stock, there's not much to check. Okay, they're checking the skegs, they're checking the props, they're checking the ECUs, they're marking the motors so they know if head bolts have been off, they know if the valve covers have been off, okay? And a lot of those guys, it's kind of, I don't want to call it a gentleman's agreement because it's not, but it almost is. A lot of the guys in that class aren't fucking around because we are so tight. But when you look at like Super Stock, it is a tough one because you have a lot of those boats that have been publicly saying like we're racing for second at this point. And I don't really think that that's the case, but how are you supposed to know if you don't tear somebody's stuff down? Yeah. And so it's a tough conundrum to be in. The other side of it is what we were saying before of not only do 90% of those guys not have the means to rebuild them, okay, so you're putting them at a, in a hole right there. I mean, so who's on the hook? So let's say I took apart your motor and you didn't have the means to rebuild it yourself, so you go home with a truck full of parts, and on top of that, you got a bill from your engine builder to reassemble the shit. Is this just a cost to play in?
Catch-22.
Right? So it's tough, man. It's tough all the way around the board. You get so many different opinions, so many different people that think it should be one way or the other way, and I think we've just always erred on the side of, like, not crippling people. You know what I mean?
Well, goes back to, like you said, both of you said, sealed engine is...
That's the way to go.
Might be the way to go.
It's the way to go. And
we had some guys in our own class even approached me and said, well, you're running 1,000 horsepower and you have 12.5 to 1 motor. And I'm like, no, seriously, we don't. And they don't want to hear it.
Right.
And I'll even call them right out. Jeff from Liquid Addiction, Monster guys, just plain out call me. Well, if you're running this, you wait. I'm buying an extra tall block, or we have to all go to the same motor. We're all going to run 500 EFIs. And I'm like, let's do it. And then they're going to be,
I don't think
hurt even more. So it's like, you said, catch-22. It's like,
I would love for them to put a 500 EFI in that boat and call me back.
We could all do it. The whole class could do it.
We did this. Back in 2012, I couldn't make the Worlds. I was playing a football game for my high school. And my dad and my brother had been hearing the talks, of my boat was way overpowered, right? So we took a 525 right out of the fountain and put it in my boat and went to the Worlds. It ran 61 miles an hour. Okay, so when you're looking at this, and I'm not bullshitting you, I have no reason to bullshit you. I don't even own the boat anymore. okay? It won't go. It needs power. And it's what I said to him when we sold him the boat, was it needed horsepower. Now, look at your own program. How would your boat run on 500 horse?
Pretty fast.
Well, pretty fast, but not what it needs. You know what I mean? It needs the power it has. You're running the correct setup. You're not running. Listen, I've watched you through these years, okay? Were you running some serious steam? Absolutely. But look at your program since, okay? Yeah. You've got a reliable program that works with enough cubic inch to get the boat out of the hole. That is like textbook how to run a bracket class. Mm-hmm. So if anybody's having issues catching you and they're pointing fingers at you, it's because they're not looking deep enough into their own program. Okay, and so take it for a compliment, because you've got people scratching their head on how to catch you. And that's the game. That's what you want to do. That's the position you want to be in. And I know how hard it is, because I'm the same way, where I want to get out of a boat and just have a beer with you, and I don't really care to point fingers or be mad at each other or whatever. And when people do that, it kind of ruins it for you.
As
almost
long as it doesn't get too dirty, then sure, absolutely.
Right. But at the same time, wear it like a badge of honor, man, because if people can't figure out how to come and get you, if they're out of options, then you did your job right. And you are doing your job right, both of you. I mean,
thanks.
You're looking to end this season in really, really good standings, right?
For sure.
So where are you at in the points? You're leading the points.
Leading the points in the OPA Northeast, leading overall, and I believe we're second with the APBA 8 race, 6 race, 10 race.
Whatever, they magically made it overnight.
Yeah, they added a few in there without asking anybody. But I believe we're second there. But it's really been a good season. There's really nothing bad to say about the season. The boats stayed together, the motors stayed together. I mean, a few breakouts, but you're gonna have this. Well, that's just what it is, man.
Oh, man, I thought we were over this already.
We lean back to, I did my job. I got by them.
You better hope nobody gets under you in the next race.
I know. I'm playing with fire here a little bit.
You're never going to hear the end of it, dude.
The interesting part is I've always, not me personally, but we have always kind of been maybe the underdogs in the beginning, fresh starting out. And it's kind of like a thing where you become Goliath and being... You're expected to win. When we don't, we pull in the pits and you see someone and they're like, oh, did you win? And if you say, yeah, everything is good. If you say, oh, no, we got second, it's, well, what happened?
Right.
And it's a different challenge, I will say.
Yeah.
It's what is it? It's not so much that I love to win, it's I hate to lose.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that's where we're at, because that's arrogant, and I don't take anyone lightly ever, because anyone can beat you on any day. Anyone can get inside you. You could have problems. But we try and make it a tight ship to where we're prepared at every race. Right. I take everyone that can race, I look at, they can beat us. So I don't want to come in light or loose or not paying attention or not checking the boat or doing whatever our routine is. That's what we're doing at every race. And I think that is truly an advantage.
It is. And also the attention to detail. So like you said there about the amount of attention that goes into the program and running a tight ship, you could see it. And you could see it a lot if you watched a Class 6 race. Watch it in any race. So and when I say race, watch a Class 6 race. Watch it from green flag to exit of turn 1. And you'll see a lot in that first maybe minute and a half, and it'll tell you a lot as far as who's in that race, okay? And one thing I notice, I watch your guys' race as if I'm racing against you. I just love bracket class stuff. I'm doing it constantly.
I know you got a lot of them GoPros on the Class 7 guys. We're going to do some Class 6 ones at some point?
So it's funny you bring that up.
Some new batteries or something, just hand them over.
What I'm doing is, and I started that as I thought it'd be cool, but I wasn't really sure. You know what I mean? Part of me says, who the hell wants to sit there for 15, 20 minutes and just watch GoPros of boats running? And the more and more I did it, more people were
into it.
Yeah, so I'm like, all right, this is cool. So I started with 7, and I had to buy a couple of GoPros to make it work, because those boys, they're rubbing wood and nickels together to get the races. They don't have a GoPro budget. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I started there, and I figured at the end of the day, if it sucked, well, they weren't going to bitch at me. right? So whatever, we'll try it.
Turned out pretty good, man.
It turned
Even
out
the first
cool,
one.
and I think we're going to do it a bit more throughout all the classes. I'm working on a way now to make it easy for switching GoPros from boat to boat. The cards, the batteries, the whole nine. I think I got it reeled in pretty tight, and I'd like to start doing some 6 and 5 races with that, because you guys got the battle going on, man. You do, like you said, you like your lotto race, like wishing you had that in your pocket.
Yeah, that would have been a good one, I think.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that in your class. There's a lot of that in your class and 5. 5's going at it this year.
Probably would have liked to seen some GoPro on punching holes and deception there.
Dude.
Man, there was some
Dude.
crazy moves.
Did you see the
being
videos
made.
that are posted?
No.
We have some videos that we got some footage for you.
I've seen like some of it, and feel free to either shoot it to me or tag me in it on Facebook or whatever. And I'll stick it in the stream. But I've been watching it. Like I've just been like I took this year off. I'm chasing some other goals. I'm not outside of racing, within racing, but I've had the luxury of watching races. I haven't been able to do that in years. So I just been sitting and watching your battles. You look at Michigan City there with punching holes and deception, and we're forgetting ST Racing with Sam Thompson was coming.
Yeah.
He was coming. He got shuffled on the very first turn and was making his way back up in the pack as the race went on. I mean, dude, I'm telling you, 6 is a juggernaut right now. There's 4 or 5 really strong teams.
I talked to Sam at the awards. He said, I guess Rendell got up inside him a little bit, and he said, what do I want to do? And I'm the type of guy, I'll help anybody in the class till they beat me or almost beat me. And then I've helped enough. But, he said, well, what do I do? I said, you just got to get up in front of him. Get in front of him the best you can.
Or get behind him.
Or get behind him.
One of the other.
And, that's the name of the game with the bracket class is if you can get your elbows out in front of them, well, then you can control the race course.
Yeah.
And that's our goal from the minute the green flag goes up is to, if we can get in front, even if we don't have primo lane choice, if I can control the turn, I'll stay in my lane, but you're going to have to hold yours too.
Yeah.
And that's an advantage. And I tell our competition that's not good for me to do from a racing aspect, but I want everyone to I want to finish 1, 2, 3, 4, and there be 1 second between each boat. That's a dream race of me.
Yeah.
For mine,
Well, and you're getting there, man. You guys have some solid competition now. And not that you never did, but I'm looking at them now. It's young kids that are going to be here for a while. So
hopefully.
So if they're a mosquito in your ear now, imagine what they'll be a year from now or 2 years from now. And
damn, I am the oldest one in our class.
You are.
I just realized that.
It's not such a bad thing, man. I'll tell you something that George Eisenhart told me a long time ago. He said, age and experience will always beat youth and exuberance. And I've never forgotten that. So there you go. Put
at
that
least
one in
he
your
didn't
back pocket.
say wisdom, because running with Crockett for all them years, I don't know how much wisdom was left.
I don't know how much is left right now. You see that boy out in Lotto?
Fast.
125 recorded. He's saying he hit 132 on the dash. That's fast, dude.
Yeah,
that's
fast.
deception. Think about that. That's deception that you race against running that. I mean, listen, Tyler's put a lot of time and energy into the bottom of that and everything else, and 3,000 horsepower and everything else. But that's just a 26-foot joker at the end of the day. That's fast, dude. I don't know if I want any part of going that fast in a little boat.
Got a few screws loose.
Oh, he's always had a few screws loose. I think a couple fell out at this point. That boy's out of control, man. But props to him, dude. He had a goal and he achieved it. That was his goal number, right? Was 132.
Yeah, 130 something. He said, I want to say he hit maybe 135 at home or 136. And I'm sorry, doing that out on the St. Clair River, you got a set.
Yeah, dude. I mean, and there's been a lot of crazy bastards over the years, but Tyler's just always kind of been the one, wiry one. I mean, I remember back. He ran, and I don't remember what that boat eventually turned into, but he had a Phantom that eventually, it was called Fortress.
That's actually Jane Kyle's Speed Marine. Yep.
All right, so
that went
that
to
boat,
that, and then it went to Simply Awesome with Bruce.
Ah, that's right.
Remember
Yeah,
Bruce
yeah,
and
yeah,
them, and then Kevin Smith had it.
That was
and then,
Progressive Insurance.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
Yep,
so
that's
when that boat
deal.
was Fortress, Tyler had that with nitrous bung to it. And back then, I mean, that wasn't a thing. I mean, people talked about it, but nobody really did it. And we were on the last lap. He was racing my old man and my brother in the Viper. And they were coming down the front stretch, last lap, home stretch, right? And my brother looked over and he's like, man, this thing just started walking off its transom. It just got tall, it got loose, and it started flying the bow. And he's like, Tyler was leaning on that nitrous button, man. He's always been a little screwed up, you know, but in all the best ways as far as we're concerned.
Nitrous is fun.
He's got it going on. And that's funny we bring up nitrous. That's the other rumor you boys are spraying.
It's only a 50 shot. Doesn't say I can't do it.
It's it, buddy.
That's it.
I thought about it. I thought about sealing the hatch of the Phantom and letting a little loose.
That's all you need.
Just on a ball valve from
That's
the
it.
cockpit. Yeah.
That's it.
It's called a Sneaky Pete, actually. It's only a little silver bottle about this big, about that round.
Fits right behind the intake under the oil cooler.
No, it's wide open throttle switch. Just hit it one time. It's there.
You'll have boys blowing their shit up left and right trying to figure out how to make that work.
It's all good.
I don't even want to think about it. Not with this guy, at least.
I don't think you need it right now. I mean, you guys are styling and profiling, man. Just collecting checkered flags.
Appreciate
Gotta keep
it.
it rolling. Looking at the rest of the schedule here. Obviously, you boys are running the rest of the OPA circuit,
Oh,
right?
for sure.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
and Inglewood capping that all off, which is awesome. So happy to be going back to Inglewood. Losing Inglewood in 2020. I hate even saying 2020. It's like bad juju just saying the words, but like losing that race was, I didn't think that could happen.
I know you said no political stuff within reason, so are we going to have it this year?
What, Inglewood?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, as far as
Election's coming around, you know.
well, but look at who the governor is.
Yeah, I love the guy, actually.
I don't think that
I like
race
him.
is going anywhere.
I think
man.
he's okay with this kind of political talk.
That's good.
Oh, I'm fine with this. I don't care about these politics. It's the other
Yeah.
politics.
I like him. I wish I could live there.
But I don't think that race is going anywhere, man. That was, so going back to 2020, that wasn't a local government call. That was actually the board shut that down. And I don't take anything away from them. I know it was a really close call. One vote decided it, if it were to happen or not.
Wow.
And I know there was a lot of like infighting that came of that. And I really wish that didn't happen because it didn't affect anything. Everybody's fine. It's all intact. The race is moving forward. Absolutely nothing negative came from it. But it didn't even need to get as far as it did, as far as even people on Facebook beating up the decision, because you have to think about it. That community the race brings a lot of people in.
Sure.
But think about the community that's actually there. It's a senior, kind of retirement destination.
They're all
And
worried.
now look at what we know now versus what we knew then, and the board is going, man, is this a good idea? Bring all these people into town, and then we get a black mark, and then maybe they
Super
don't do it
spreader.
next year. And right. So I could see how that got overturned and the race went away. I completely understand that and respect the decision, but it was a heartbreaker. I mean, I thought that was definitely going to go. I mean, Florida was kicking ass at that time, but you looked at what went on with, all the vacation
That's even
times
if it was
and
true, whatever.
well, and that's I mean, who the fuck? Who knows?
Wow, he's even going on one now. If it's even true.
Well,
All right, so let me get into this. No, I'm not. I'm not getting into it.
I mean, I don't care if you do.
No.
Wrong podcast.
Everybody, you know what it is? Everybody's got their own like theories, right?
Sure.
And it's I think we're at a point where we all need to just think about it as if like, what are we fighting over?
When you wake up, it's worth everything.
Well,
Go to work tomorrow.
yeah,
Let's
like
go boat racing.
yeah, that's it, dude. Like the whole, this theory, that theory. I mean, the only common thing everybody can agree on is this shit definitely didn't come from somebody eating a bat. Okay, and
Wait, what?
And whatever the hell's happened since then is all political theater, and everybody needs to put it into perspective for what it really is. Everybody's been affected by it. Everybody's lost somebody. Everybody understands what the game is, but we need to move forward, and we are. Look at this season. But this was a COVID schedule. If you break it down, that's why we got 15 races on the APBA schedule. All right, it's ridiculous, but we were looking at it from the stance of look at 2020. We thought we were good there, and we wound up at Moorhead. Lotto ran one, but it was an invitational for Superstock. Nobody thought that was going to happen. So planning this season was planned to lose 50% of the races.
And we got them all.
We got them all. We're moving forward. Everything's open back up. We're rocking and rolling. I haven't even thought about it, truthfully. Ever since Jersey offloaded the masks that work so well, it just, life went back to normal. I don't even really think about it or
No.
It doesn't cross my mind much. I mean, I think the masks and all that shit was keeping it relevant, was keeping everybody talking about it, and these stupid masks, and every time you got out of the truck and got halfway to the store and had to turn around and go back and get it back out of your truck, and it's over now. It's done. Everybody can just move forward. This Delta bullshit. I'm not even, it is what it is. We're boat racing. We're back. I don't even give a shit about all that. I'm just happy to be going back to Inglewood, going back to these places that we missed out on. Like, dude, Michigan City. How cool was Michigan City?
Good turnout.
Right?
Solid.
It's such an awesome event. I mean, I think I don't know all the actual ins and outs of the numbers. I haven't seen this year's impact, but I know it was bigger than 2019. And I was thinking about it leaving that race, driving home. Like, I can't believe we didn't have this. Like it's unbelievable that a year went by and we didn't get to do that. Like, it's so good to be going back to those places. St. Clair.
Yeah, St. Clair. I was surprised. St. Clair, I was always been like a go-to kind of race. And, when you hear they're not partnering with Waterfest or Riverfest, and you start to think, is it going to be the same? It was better. I mean, that might sound a little harsh to some of the Riverfest people, but the environment seemed better. The crowd seemed better. They seemed more like they were there for the boat stuff than just, hey, it's a party and a band or whatever you might have.
You know what you get? At the end of the day, that fest is festival,
yes.
Okay? And you get that festival crowd, right? And I hate to say that like a bad thing. I know there's a lot of great festivals and there's a lot of awesome things, but you get a lot of, the wrong crowd at those events. And this year, you had none of that. I mean, was it awesome having all those big name concerts and all that stuff? I mean, sure. But basically, 90% of us were out of the pits by the time those concerts were even happening.
Yep.
Right?
Sure.
And then the other 10% of us were left to defend our boats from the drunkenness.
Picking beer cans off the trim tabs.
Yeah. And I found solo cups in my exhaust pipes. And, so I agree with you. I think it was a lot more wholesome is the right word. It was as tight-knit and family-oriented as any race I've ever been to. They had all local talent playing all weekend, which was awesome to feel like the local vibe. A lot of the locals were there to support their local talents, and a lot of the businesses in town that wouldn't get involved before because they knew all the proceeds were going to Fun Fest. It wasn't going to the River Classic, right? So they wouldn't get involved. Why are they going to pay the machine, right? So now to see it come full 360 and everybody's trucking forward, the local businesses are getting involved, they're benefiting from it. There was an ordinance, so remember years prior there was that orange fencing that kept everybody in the pits.
Yeah.
Okay, that wasn't there this year. I don't know if anybody noticed that, but that was like amazing to have that not there, to not have that private security company that they hired in, just Gestapo up the pits. And, it was so nice to not have that. The local ordinance went in that everything from the main road to 2 streets in was fair game. You could drink in the streets as long as you bought it from a local business. And, I mean, everybody benefited. Everybody. There was people leaving the awards, or not the awards, the registration room and getting a haircut in the
Really?
place in the barbershop next to us. And stop beating up Fran, man.
Superstitious, man.
You won when it was short.
But this is because of COVID. So when this shit's over, I'll cut it at the end of the season.
Okay.
You grew your hair out for COVID?
I just,
solid over there.
I used
isn't
to
he?
have like 20, 30 people show up at my shop. We hired a barber to come out. We would have burgers and everything at nighttime. This was true. I had parties at my shop. I'm like, I'm not stopping nothing. So for too long, I was like, I'm not hiring this guy anymore to come to the shop. I'm just going to let my hair grow out.
Right.
And it literally grew out. But it
So
gets
it's
hot
like-
in the summertime.
So it's like a playoff beard, but for COVID?
Yeah, that's it.
I like it. I dig it.
It works.
I
When
dig
the
it.
beard grows in, he looks too much like Christopher Lloyd.
God.
It's going back to the future.
Believe it or not, folks, these boys are friends.
Yeah. Imagine that. So what do you hear? You hear any good Class 6 guys coming out? Any new teams? I know you always hear a lot of them. What do you hear? I see that
The
smirk
Lowers.
over there.
The Lowers
I've
are
heard
coming
about
out.
the Lowers.
I heard about it again last night. Got a phone call.
Lauer boys are coming. There's I don't know if I'm really allowed to say much.
Oh, come on.
I don't
Breaking
know.
news.
I don't know if
Breaking
I'm
news.
really
Come on.
allowed to say
it's
much.
all staying
but
in here anyway.
the,
Does his name rhyme with Schmick Schmith?
No, not quite yet. But my name, my hat is in that ring.
Oh, okay.
The Battle Wagon team is
Yeah.
putting together a
26
Class 6
stroker.
boat.
Yep.
Yeah. And I don't know how all the ins and outs of it work or how anybody can inquire to buy one or how all that's going to go yet. But I do know that hull number 1 from Battle Wagon of that mold is going to be the Lowers, and they're going to be in Class 6.
All fired up engines going in it.
Uh-oh.
The blower motor.
Yep, they're supposed to be coming
1,000
with some big
horsepower.
steam.
Yeah.
And that's, listen,
Bring it on.
I don't mean to throw any shade at Joker.
Sure.
But I have worked with Christian relatively closely over the last few months about
good
this
dude.
build, and Christian's very good at what he does. I know there's a lot that flies around about him, and it's such bullshit. The guy puts his heart and soul into every project he does, and I have no reason to believe that anything will change going forward into this new build. And I'm so excited to see what he does with that Joker, the changes he's going to make. I don't know what he's going to call it yet. I know it's coming from Battle Wagon. It'll have some kind of cool name to it or something, you know. But I've been kicking around doing that with him and coming back to 6. Or if not, my eyes are always open for a 24 Carrera. I would love to
You
get
want
back.
to go down that road again?
Dude, it's the best road I've ever been down, man. I look at what you guys have done with yours, okay? And I did that with mine. And I am so thankful for that. My gratitude is as high as it could possibly be for my time in Class 6. Everybody I raced against, everybody that raced with me over the years and I got to race with, you couldn't trade it for anything. No amount of money could buy me back out of that. That was the coolest couple of years to just be taken under the wing of so many just phenoms in the sport. Just guys that have been there, done that. I mean, to the Rick Ateki and Gary Cooks, to the Jim Jackson and John Smiths, to the Robin Ray Merckx, to Rich and Pete Smith, the list is just endless. I raced against Tyler Crockett. I raced against him with George Eisenhart with that Joker that they just ran 135 with, right? I mean, that experience, I would go back to that like that, buddy, like that. If I hit the lottery tomorrow, it wouldn't be a Supercat. I could promise you that.
So Tyler seriously went from 6 to 5 to 4.
To 3.
Oh my God.
He started out in 6, so the classic battle was his boat and Papa Duke's, which was my boat. And then he ran that for a couple of years. That was when 6 didn't actually exist. It was 5, and then they made 6, and those two boats became 6, and they battled there. I think he got a little bored of that and went up to 5. He's a wild man. Ran 5 for a year or two, went to 4. Raced
Still
against
the same speeds where they are now.
same speeds, yeah. Ran against Jim Simmons.
85.
85. Ran against Jim Simmons. Bull on the Beach. A bunch of those boys. Went up to 3.
Bull on the Beach.
Yep.
The enclosed boat.
Yeah, actually, at the time, it was the old, I believe it was Hidden Agenda. It was a
before they bought it.
32 skater with twin F-16 canopies with 540s, and we built the motors for that boat. And that was a fast boat. Tyler raced them. And I think my old man just wouldn't let him go any further. 95 was pretty stupid in a 26-foot Joker, and it's not even so much him, but the other guys. I mean, that's like a little hornet buzzing around your head. You don't even know.
Imagine.
You don't even know where it is. I mean, I could only imagine trying to race against that in like our 38 Fountain, where you can't see out the canopy. I mean, I don't want to race against that thing.
What kind of drive they have on the back?
I honestly, I don't know. I don't know what he has now. I know it was a Bravo when he was in 5 and 6. I don't know what he did in 4 and
now
3.
he runs like a SCX with like a one. I don't want to speak for him, but like a 1-2-4 gear or something. I was talking to him about it. He runs some pretty crazy.
But it has to
crazy
be
stuff.
the big shaft, right? Because he's running
Yeah.
the number 6 props.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly what the build is now on it, but back then it was Bravo based.
Mm.
But he always ran good power.
And he always,
I mean,
and he had like always unique stuff, like a SB2, kind
Yeah.
of like 430-inch small block.
Yeah,
or
always
something,
weird stuff.
Dry something. Definitely innovative kind of guy. Like he tries some stuff.
I put him in like the class of like Herb Stotler,
Yeah.
where like just guys that like Herb. It breaks my heart that people don't respect what Herbie's done. Like, and not to take the shine away from Tyler, I think they're two of the same in this, where they're willing to try things. Like Herbie over the years has tried some of the craziest builds I've ever seen, right down to a couple years ago with that twin turbo setup in Alex and Annie or Scuderia. I don't know. It's changed so many times, but the Alex and Annie boat, everybody knows it as the
Yeah.
Alex and Annie boat with Jimmy Kazani. And I put Tyler right up there in that class where he's just always willing to try some crazy shit, man. And whether it works or not, you got to give him credit because the body of work he's put together is pretty phenomenal.
Hey, a lot of people talk about it, not many people do it. You
Right.
know? And,
Right.
but yeah, it's definitely crazy. So what else you got? You got the Lauer boys. You got anyone else in there?
Liquid Courage were supposed to come back. They haven't
Really?
shown up.
Yeah, I heard Brian
The
Williamson.
Warlock?
Yeah,
The Warlock?
22, 24, whatever it is.
I love that boat. I love that boat so much. That boat was here for a little while. It was like a layover. They were going to pick it up on their way to the next race, and I gawked over that thing. I thought it was the coolest boat.
Jason Moffat ran that thing in Class 5 for a while at Solomon's, too, remember?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, that thing.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, that was
Every
like...
once in a while, Brian brings it up out of it and says he's going to do it.
I love that boat, man. He's had... Doesn't he still have Bill Gazelle's Great Adventure? The Sutphin?
Where did I see that? I don't know. I just saw that somewhere. Somebody was just talking about that.
Yeah, he's got some cool boats, man. But that one's cool.
Yeah.
6 is one of those classes where guys just kind of come out of the woodwork. You never really see it coming. I think it's the price bracket of that class. I mean, somebody can get a bug up their ass and build a Class 6 boat next month.
And
No.
there's so many.
No way. I bought one. It blew apart.
Uh-huh.
Let me tell you.
Well, what they think is a
the
Class
same.
6 boat.
Yeah, nothing's the same.
I think you can go and the reason it's attainable, you want to go buy an SVL right now? I mean, there might be a new 30S Phantom sitting at the wheel shop. Maybe you're lucky and you find one, but you can't get one. Lily's backed up. He's got people wanting him to build boats. I'm sure Will has people wanting him to build boats, and you can't go get one. You want a Class 6? Go find an old 26 Corsa or Martini or a 24 Superboat or
All you gotta
24
do-
Jaws or Larriquin. You name P&D, Pantera,
All you
whatever.
gotta do is go on Swap Shop and put ISO
Yeah.
24/7.
Yep.
And just watch what people put in the comments. I mean, there's race boats everywhere.
Yep. And you can be competitive in that. Anyone that says you can't, just look at what some of these teams are doing. Like, I hate to keep going back to punching holes in them guys, but I can't get over the fact that they're running 500 horsepower, and granted,
They're there.
they're doing whatever it takes to stay there.
They're there. It's
But
good.
if that's what you have to do, then it's the other guy's job to get by you.
But, dude, not for nothing. That's what you're going to have to do anyway.
Yeah.
So, like, I've been looking at this. I've been watching Andy and Nick's last couple of races real closely. And Nick is really, to me, it seems like he's got it. He's boats are one of those weird things where if somebody's got it in the first 10 minutes, right? You ever get in somebody else's boat and you just start shitting your pants?
Fran will not ride. Fran does not like going out with other people in the boat.
Right. Well,
No,
smart
I won't
man.
do it.
Smart man.
No, he's always on me about
I want to
no.
ride with anybody and everybody I can. That
Well,
doesn't
no.
bother
I'll
me.
always take a
That's
boat
like
ride, but
him
we're
wanting
idiots.
me to
Exactly.
be in the steering wheel and him on the throttles. I'm like, no, it ain't happening.
I try that all the time to break the ice. Nervous man over here. I'll go. All right, I'll throttle. You drive.
No,
I can't do that.
I'll do it. We're just not going to do the speed. We're just going to cruise around and have a good time. Have that beer on the dash that don't move.
Right.
But
Whatever. But
the
no,
You
it
should-
ain't
solid pull there, Fran.
Hey,
You
whatever,
should
man.
put like an empty beer bottle and
Yeah.
5200 it to the dash so guys
It's
can
actually
break your
not a
balls.
bad idea.
I tell you,
Fill it up and let me know how much is left in it at the end of the race.
yeah, not much. Not much is the answer. But I don't know. It's really just. It's been a good ride. We're gonna keep it going as long as we can. But it really has been. I'm not gonna say eye-opening, but it makes you realize maybe what you've done or where you came from
Well,
a little bit with that.
and we were talking about Nick and Andy before we got a little sidetracked
Yeah,
there. And
that
if
would
you
never
look
happen.
you look at those two, man. You're saying you can't believe they're doing it on 500 horse. If it's 500 horse, I don't even know if it's making that.
No, it's so what I've heard it's a 454 stroke to a 496 with like a HP 500 cam. So it's like
It's right there,
480, 500. Yeah,
It's
9
right
to
there.
1, real
So
basic
call it
kind of
500,
motor.
right? And look at what they're doing. But look at what we were saying about if somebody's got it or they don't.
Yep.
Nick's got it. I mean, Nick's got it, and he's with Andy, who, if nothing else, is a wild man. Wild man that
Oh, yeah.
is passionate about boat racing. I mean, just breathes it, right? And watching those guys run, they're coming up through the ranks quickly, okay? They get a little steam in that boat. They figure out some things. They're right there. You know
I
what I
gotta
mean?
send you the video. You're gonna laugh. I just laugh.
Please do.
Every time I watch it, I have to watch it. I watch it in the morning sometimes. It's just comical. I'm sorry.
That's
But
what gets them going in the morning.
when
just
you're saying
watching boat
Certain
racing.
things, just like I don't know. Just I love it. I
But
think
when you're saying like they got to do what they got to do to stay in there, and it's loosey
doing it.
goosey and it's flying by the seat of their pants. But listen, if you want to wrestle first place, that's how it works, man. That's what
Yep.
you got to do, and they're getting the right education right now. And like I said, ST Racing, Sam Thompson. I mean, he had a beautiful run in Michigan City. You had Jesse and Robert right behind you guys in Deception. I mean, Michigan City was really a beautiful race for Class 6. I mean, it was just awesome to watch. Everybody was doing their job.
Yep. And you know what? And something I don't want to overlook here is Rendell. Chris Rendell has probably been in Class 6. He probably has more races in Class 6
Than anyone.
than maybe Smith Brothers are there close with him. But, man, he's been there. And when that boat is running right, and I know he has a lot of boats and he puts a lot of hours on that, renting it out, leasing it, and corporate parties and really kind of living the dream boat racing in a way. But
he's the only one of us that actually does this for a job.
yeah.
I mean, that's his business, is these bat boats. And I give a lot of respect to Chris. I know that over the years his program has deteriorated and been rebuilt and then deteriorated and been rebuilt again, right? I mean, he went through a couple of years where he just couldn't get one to go around a turn. They'd go in the turn and just spin it around, blow drive off. And it was like every race,
And he
man.
keep coming back for more. I mean, how many guys you see blow one? I mean, I could think of a few teams. One drive came off, and we're done.
Right.
You break one transmission assembly.
No,
and
not that guy,
Nope.
man. He
Keeps
rolls him
coming
over,
back.
blows the wings off him, loses the hatches,
beaches him in the
beaches
Point
him,
Pleasant.
and he's back.
drives them into the side
Yep.
of my boat.
He works his ass off. But I will say this, okay? When he's running his boat, okay, when you got a guy renting a seat and you're not real sure about his capabilities or whatever the case may be, you got to give him that. But when he's running the boat, he's hard to beat, man.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's a phenom. He's been there a long time. He's a former champion, both national and world. And he goes to every event. He works his ass off. I give him credit.
Yep. I don't think people maybe that are starting to get into it give him as much credit. I mean, when I first got in and when I first started following boat racing, if you were a bracket class guy, Rendell was the guy you were shooting for.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he won national championships and world championships, and he's been there. And I don't want, I definitely don't take him for granted. You always want to see someone, when his program is right, that boat's competitive as it gets.
I'll tell you right now, okay? My brother and my old man were here. I was working here. I was doing customer stuff. They had to do something on one of his boats. And if he hears this, he'll laugh his ass off. It was the yellow one. And I know they've been painted a million times, but it had a 700 Ilmore in it with one of those duo prop Bravo 3 lowers. Mm-hmm. And it would hook up. I mean, we took it out here. It was the lightest one in his fleet. 700 horse with that duo prop. It wouldn't yaw, like it wouldn't do anything stupid. You hit it and it ran dead straight. And it was probably the fastest accelerating boat any of the three of us here have ever been in, from 50 to 90. Just unbelievable speed.
I remember your dad saying that recently to both of us.
Yeah, just unbelievable speed. And he's put together some really, really cool packages. Like right now, he's in the middle of building that electric version. Yeah, I mean, listen, I know a lot of people have a lot to say about the guy, but he's done his time, man. He's done his time.
And he comes back for more.
Yeah.
That's the thing. A lot of these guys have came in, made a splash, something didn't go their way, and they pull back and that's their own prerogative. Look, what is it? You want to be a millionaire boat race and start with 10?
Right.
Right. I mean, it's your money, you can do what you want with it. But for a guy to wreck a boat, sink a boat, beach a boat,
dude, he's everywhere.
Destroy it, and you talk to him, and he goes, "Hey, man, I had to buy a new $30,000 Ilmore package," and just bites a bullet and does it. So for a guy to keep coming back, he's got 100% respect in my book.
His credit card bill would knock me over.
I don't want to see it.
I don't know how the hell he does it, and he's everywhere, dude. He just set the record for, I don't know what exactly the class was, maybe under 26 or something, to Catalina and back.
Yep.
With Lucas Oil. Like, dude, guy's been there, done that. What?
I keep saying it.
He wants to.
I want to do it.
You want to do that?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna be there in September. I think it's probably pretty cool. I never did it. I've only done it on like cruise ships.
Hey, it's your credit card, not mine, man. Dude, if you want to go down that road,
I wanna
that's
do it.
fine.
Can you carry the fuel?
It'll be close.
I don't know.
It
Let
would
me
be
figure that
close.
out. I don't know. 70 miles in Sarasota. How long is it again? Sorry.
That's more of those politics I don't want to get into,
I
buddy.
don't know what you're talking
You're not touching that one with a 10-foot pole.
about. No. You're right. You do have to give, Rendell a lot of credit, especially, I was turning in my chip, and I'll never forget it. He came in.
Last year in Moorhead. Let's set the
He-
stage here.
Yeah, we were coming up on the turn. Before you know it, I heard this noise, and I looked to my left, and here comes Rendell on the inside of us and just, kind of hosed us down and cut us off on the turn. I go to turn my chip in. Rendell comes walking over, and he goes, "Hey, man, you guys are killing it out there." And I was like, "Let me talk to you. I got to talk to you about something, man." I said, "What you did, hold on a second. Where's your shoes and your sock?" And he's missing one and got a shirt ripped, and he's soaked from head to toe, standing in the hotel, wringing his shirt out. And I'm like, "What the hell happened to you?" "Oh, we flipped the boat." I'm like, "Forget it. I got to go." I just walk away from the guy. But
And he's standing there trying to turn his chip into Frank.
Yeah.
Drenched, head to toe, blue V-box in hand, going, "Yeah, Frank, here you go." I mean, missing a shoe, sock, soaking
Frank's
wet.
like staring at him. I'm staring at him like, did I just miss something
It's like,
here?
never mind, man. You hosed us down.
Like you
It
said,
doesn't
he's-
matter.
He's there.
But
he's
then
there.
what's he do? Rebuild the boat and come back for more.
Yeah,
So,
so you got to give it to him, man. And we all know. I mean, you do your own work. You do your own work. I do my own work. I know what goes into that, dude.
Sure.
It's painful. Like
Yeah.
that's the one thing. Like I just had Mike and Dante in here, and we were talking about how Dante got started, and he had made mention that when Papa Dukes was getting on its feet, when my green boat was becoming a race boat, they had two ways to go. Either they were going to start building drag cars, or they were going to go offshore. And we were talking about kind of the differences. And the one thing I think is different is it's not fun to work on a boat. Like
No.
people people tell me about drag racing, and they're like, "Oh yeah, all my buddies in the garage, and we build the car, and it's fun. It's a good time." When we talk about working on our stuff, it's like, dude, I had to pull the motor, I had to cut the floor out, get the gas tank out. Dude, it's not easy. It's not fun. And so for somebody like Chris to just keep doing it time and time again, I definitely give him kudos, man. It's a lot.
and then, to kind of circle all the way back, you ask, like, how do we become that dominant force? I got to give my man Fran credit. I give him a hard time.
Well,
in
it's
case you
about
can't notice.
goddamn time you
But-
gave him some credit for something.
Yeah, well,
This
hey,
is
look,
being recorded, right?
Yeah,
Is
unfortunately, it
anybody
is. It's
taping
gonna,
this?
This is a new thing he's going to watch every
yep.
I
morning.
need my phone.
and besides breaking out, no, I'll text him and I'll say, "Hey, man, I have an idea. We might waste a lot of your money and time, but it might be awesome." And for the most part, he goes, "Okay, let's do it."
Right.
So, I ask him, "Hey, we're going to try this or that." And I approach it like almost kind of how, like, I'm big into SVL stuff and I love that class. And I'm like, I try and bring some of that to the bracket class, and we evolve race to race. I mean, this year, I would say we had a pretty successful season so far. And midway through the season, I'm making him change stuff and, hey, get rid of this, and we're going to move that, and we're going to change this and that. And he goes, "But we're winning." I was like, "Yeah, but we can be better." And so
Okay.
in his defense, when I say, "Give me your credit card," he gives me his credit card, and we buy some stuff.
Right.
So to me, that's huge. You can't keep going with the same package 10 years ago. It might still be close, but it's not,
Right.
10 years ago in Class 6, it was you had 650, 630.
Yeah, you were okay.
You were okay. I mean, you might not have had 800 or something, but you were okay. And I think it's 100 up from that now. Like now you need 700, 750.
Yeah, minimum.
But that's what everyone has. I mean, I would say our boat, the Deception, Smith Brothers, your old boat. I mean, they can deny it or whatever. We all have within the same power.
Yeah.
Within 20 or 30.
Well, and then equate it within the hull too.
Yeah.
So I'm on your side when it comes to this stuff because, like my boat, I used to explain to people all the time. I know I have 900 horse, but the boat's 5,600 pounds. Like, how heavy's your boat? Like, for instance, I've had this conversation so many times with the late Dave Rabb, okay, who now his boat is punching hulls, right? And we used to go round and round and round and round and round about this. I'd be like, dude, your boat is 3,000 pounds. My boat's almost 6,000 pounds. Like, I need the power, dude. Like,
so you double the horsepower.
Yeah.
Double the torque. Sure.
And that's,
understandable.
It's funny, we'll go down this road now that you said something. Nick and Andy were talking to me after, I want to say Ohio. It was really pretty bumpy out there, and they were watching us, and we ran a good race. I mean, we had a pretty good setup on it, and that we ran good. And they said, "Man, we need a boat like yours." And I said, "No, their boat, they had some little bit of structural issue, and it's name of the game out there." And I said, "Your boat is light. You cannot undersell that." I said, "You're doing it with 500 horsepower. We put 500 horsepower in.
Yeah, you're going backwards.
You're going backwards." I said, "You can, if you're light, you can make it work." And I said, "Your boat turns good and it's light, and if you have that, that's over half the battle. So you fix it, you put your bulkheads in it, then you can weigh the thing down with 500 pounds, and okay, it weighs 4,000 pounds now instead of 6,500. I mean, trust me, I have a 28 Pantera. There's nothing light. I'm in the with that boat, it's the approach that you have with the green boat. Well, I just need more and more and more horsepower and cubic
You ain't
inch.
lightening it up.
I tried. I spent a lot of time and effort, and it didn't do anything. So you just add more power to that. And that, circling all the way back, that is the heart of bracket boat class. It's competitive, but it's not a juggernaut. You want to be competitive, put a little more in yours, and now you're just as competitive.
Right.
Or buy a smaller prop.
And
or
a lot of it,
whatever
too,
the case might be.
And I guess I've kind of literally spent a lifetime in bracket class. So the other thing that you come to learn as you spend more and more time in it is really you could almost do it with any setup once you understand how to do it.
Yep.
Like, you watch some of these guys, they roll up into the turn and they literally bounce off that first buoy. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, wait, you got to get off that buoy. You got to make a line. You got to figure out how to, sacrifice a little distance for a little speed and figure out the happy medium and how to set up the turn and how to push people around, how to not get pushed around, right? And that's like all of those things make you win a race, not horsepower. Yeah. And it cracks me up that so many people are so quick to just point and shoot at horsepower. And I'm like, dude, it's not. It's a million other things. Like, yeah, does horsepower help you? Absolutely. But it's a million other things. And there's a few people right now, like Andy and Nick, that are coming up through the ranks that are learning it the right way. I mean, Nick's learning how to wheel the ever-living shit out of a boat.
If he puts some power in it, and then he doesn't have to do it, maybe only 2 oh shit moments a lap instead of 20, he's going to be a lot closer.
Yeah, dude. And so it's cool, I think. And the other side of it is it's a passion sport, right? Where nobody's doing this for money. It's all passion.
Wait, you're not getting paid?
Dude.
Oh, man. Fran pays me great.
Dude. That whole getting a paid racing gig is like finding a unicorn.
Yeah, I don't even get that.
Hamburgers.
Dude, I'm cool with the
I
hamburgers.
asked for like
man.
$5 in gas the other day, and he shot me down.
Hamburgers.
I asked for 1 gallon of gas.
Dude, you were a lifesaver in Eastlake, just so you know, and you don't even know of it. You don't even
The hamburgers?
know it. The hamburgers,
Oh,
man.
Pam,
Dude,
listen, we've been a couple hours into this now. We haven't mentioned.
we gotta shout.
We gotta
Pam out.
shout Pam out. Fran isn't happy about it over there, but Pam, listen, if
She'll
Fran,
show up and cook. I'll never cook if I just don't. I don't know.
she is if Fran is passionate about boat racing, she's second passionate.
Right.
And I love boat racing. Them two, I don't hold a candle to them two. Because she eats, sleeps, and breathes it as much as Fran.
Right.
And so I got to give Pam a lot of credit for that too.
Well, and also in Eastlake there, that was only the second race of the new GPS program with our new guys. And so I've been kind of breathing down their necks. That's just, I feel bad for them sometimes, but I'm there making sure everything gets done right. And, I mean, to this point, they've done a stellar job. But we were all sitting there in Eastlake. We couldn't go watch the race. It was too far, and we didn't want to miss people coming back in and, getting things moving correctly. And so we were just kind of twiddling our thumbs, waiting for the last of the cards to come in and read the last of the GPSs. And all of us collectively were like, man, we're starving. Like it hits somebody and everybody goes, yeah, me too. With that comes Pam.
That's Fran right now with pizza. I bet he's thinking he could eat like 4 pizzas.
Is that why we called you Franny Pizza?
I don't know. I love to eat.
You want to hear why we call him Franny Pizza? So, 2016 or 17? It was 17. 17, first race with Fran. We told the story earlier. Well, after Inglewood, after we got our ass kicked by Bocchino on Sunday, we get back, open the bilge, and it's mud. It beat the core out of the back 6 feet of the boat.
Hey, there was silicone. There was blue body filler. There was newspaper.
The boat was beat up. It had been patched a few times. I mean, that's the life of a race boat. I told him, that's boats for you. I wish it wasn't, but that is just how it is.
I cried.
He cried for sure. And I mean, the boat was beat up. And he goes, what are we gonna do? Same advice I gave Nick and Andy. I said, we have 2 options. You either throw it away, buy another boat and find out it's rotten in a year, spend the money and the time, cut it apart, fix it right, and then you at least know what you have. So thankfully he cut, because it's a good boat. I said you cannot beat a good base. It can be rotten and all that stuff. You can fix all that. And when we got it back, he pulled the motor out, he gave it to me, I de-rigged it. And when he came down and found out how bad it was, he ate 2 whole pizzas in one sitting. 16 slices. I'm not exaggerating.
It still makes me upset.
That's how distraught he was.
I don't know why. I can cry over my boat.
Yeah, well,
I love it.
Must be getting late. What time is it?
We all understand that.
I'm sure it's
but
just weird.
He
just do.
And I said that you have the life of a race boat. It starts with the first owner, and this is racing anything, motorcycles, cars, boats, doesn't matter. The first person, it's their pride and joy, their baby. They rub it with a diaper and talk sweet nothings to it and the whole 9. The second owner buys it from the first owner for top dollar. And they take good care of it. They probably have some money, but it's just like a project for them. Third owner, now it's a little more rundown. He gets it for cheaper. Fourth owner gets it, and it's in rough shape. It's been neglected. At one time, it was perfect. Now a guy bought it for a song. Shouldn't own it kind of deal. That's kind of where Fran bought it, was that fifth, guy. And I don't want to sound like that coming to the previous owner. He owned it a long time. But it had been rode hard.
Yeah. Very
hard. When he got it, he didn't know. He bought it because he liked the lines. He liked it because it was red. Let's be honest. Honest to God, he bought it because him and Bobby had the same truck. They both had a 05 Chevy white dually, kind of like yours, a little older. But
Max truck identically the same. When I pulled
and
up,
he pulled up and he goes, "It's fate. I gotta buy it. I gotta buy it. We had the same white Chevy dually. We gotta buy this boat, right?" And fell in love with it. And anyone knows an emotional purchase is always a wrong purchase. But that's how it works with boats. I've been done dirty that way too.
The other side of it is too, I don't care if you bought it and it was perfect.
Yep.
It's a boat, man.
Yep.
It's a boat. And I know how much it stings when you think something's one thing and then you get into it and it's another thing. I get that. But it's a race boat, man. It would one way
but
or
I
another.
still don't understand. I have a hard time grasping that still because But I know from the day I bought that boat was the biggest clapped out what. Which now I wouldn't have a problem selling that thing to anybody because
right.
If I didn't see it, had an issue in this little area, and Mike did, hey, you better address that. I never let any single thing go.
Right.
Like nothing.
Right.
It's got to be right. It's like going to the races and going racing Class 6. You're either going to do the season completely, do it all 110%, or don't do any of it.
Right.
So if it's Mike's life and my life in that boat, I take full responsibility for him and me to be in that. I don't need anything happening.
Right.
So it's either I do it all or I don't do any of it. So that's just like me through anything I've pretty much done in life. It's either all or nothing.
Right.
And I'm not going to fail. Because if I fail, it's on me.
Right.
So the boat was ruined beyond belief.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, well, what do I do? And I said, well, here's your two choices: rebuild it and make it new and spend too much money, and then you'll be a real boat racer. And because I always used to tease him and say, hard time. I said, well, you're not a real boat racer yet. He goes, what do you mean? I'm racing. I'm at these races. I said, you haven't lost one. You haven't blown one apart. You haven't sunk one. You haven't rolled one over. I said, when you start doing that and you come back for more, that's when you're a real boat racer. And
Last year you said it.
yeah, and well, no, 2 years ago. And then when we got it all back together, fixed and running right, and I want to say we won a race, I said, all right, you're a real boat racer now.
Yeah.
You fixed it,
Earned
you
your
broke
wings.
it,
I
you
hugged you
rebuilt
then. I
it.
remember
Yeah,
that.
you might have hugged me.
I think I
sure.
did.
Earned your wings,
with a
man.
piece
But
of
yep,
pizza.
and that's what it is. And honest to God, you watch the guys, you know, and I got the utmost respect for these guys. You know, Bill Allen, Lauren Peters, LPC, you know, flipping that boat 2-3 times, putting it back together and coming back for more.
Well-
you see a lot of these guys that roll them once. Yeah, I'm done with it. I'm never getting in it again. It can sit there. It can, and that's their prerogative. You know, I mean, unfortunately, I've been over in a boat and fortunately came out okay, but you know, to get back on the horse is what makes you a racer, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's funny. It always seems to be like a trial by fire.
Yep.
Actually funny. You can fact check this with the Smith boys. In 2017 in Fall River, I was running Class 5, and the Smith brothers blew a drive, and they wanted to use mine as like a backup boat. So I didn't have a problem with it, but at the time I was running race fuel, so they ran up to the store and got 55 gallons of race fuel, and they were all ready to go. And Fall River was 3 weeks before the World Championship at this time, right? So I went down into the milling circle, and the motor was like kind of breaking up a little bit, but it was big compression, and it would do that sometimes. It just load up, you know. So yellow flag goes up on the pace boat, clear it out, get up on plane. Green flag goes up, we hit it, and nothing. Nobody's home. MSD box took a shit, right? So I had so much trouble in Class 5, just stupid shit that would have went wrong in Class 6, just for whatever reason happened when I got to Class 5. And I watched all 14 boats go through the bridge, and I was pissed because I wanted to be in those big boat starts so bad. You watch that your whole life, and how many chances do you really get to go into turn one with 15 other guys? I mean, that's just, 30 other guys, 15 other boats.
Yeah.
And I watched that happen, and so we were on fire. I mean, the boat cleared up, right? MSD box came back to life just randomly as... And if anybody from MSD is watching this, get your shit together. Like, why can't you build a box that works and is water? You know, you say it's watertight and it smells water and it shuts up. Anyway, so the boat wouldn't run, and so
Longest podcast to date.
it gets no, it's not. It's
Oh,
not.
okay.
So it clears out. We're heading through the bridge, and we went from 14th to 1st in one lap. Just anger, just pure anger, just everything the boat had. My brother and I just beyond furious and having a day. I mean, I passed 6 boats in one turn. We went into the bridge turn, which
What class? Class 5?
Class 5.
You never broke out.
No, and actually no, but it wouldn't have mattered. But we go through the bridge, and the bridge turn's interesting, and it's why I want Fall River back in the worst way, is because that bridge turn. I would do anything for that bridge turn again.
We raced it. That's where
You go straight through,
Yeah,
right?
it's weird.
Past the battleship.
make a left.
Make that left. But now where
back
everybody
under.
gets screwed up is you have to keep coming back.
the pylon, because you got to go on the opposite side of it.
You
and
gotta-
put it on
well,
your right.
The bridge opening, we use 2 bridge openings,
Ugh.
right? So
Yeah,
there's
I
like
know.
columns in the bridge, right? So for everybody listening, you got one column you go through, one column you come back through, but the turn is 3 times as wide as those 2 columns. So as you come out of the exit of the turn, you got to come back and get the through for the bridge, right? And I mean, we would just crush it in there. The green boat it would eat that turn. And so we got back up to 1st. Dave Rabb was in his Magnum, and he was fighting with me for 1st. And we came up on a Class 7 boat, and I went way wide around the Class 7 boat. He came with me, right? As we got to it, he bailed and went back inside and left me hanging outside the Class 7 boat. I was pissed. So as we're coming down into the next turn, I picked the line underneath him. He saw me coming, squeezed off the turn, and pirouette, and we went. So I never thought in a million years that you could actually spin the green boat out. For years, I didn't think it was even possible. The amount of stuff that we'd done with that boat, I thought it would dig forever. Well, I finally got it to where it wouldn't dig. And it got up on his wake, pitched it sideways. We looped 3 times before the drive came off. And it's I got to give it Edmund's photography. If you guys are watching, I love you. Edmund's had it shot for shot for shot for shot as it happened. And the only thing that stopped us from getting pitched was the drive came off, and it started to slide. But if it wasn't for the drive coming off, it would have hooked and threw us all out. So here's Smith Brothers with their hand truck, wheeling their 55 gallons of 110 back down to the ramp, right? And as they get there I go with the towboat halfway underwater, water up to the carburetor. And so as we were talking about how you earned your wings, right?
Yeah.
That was the first season where my brother didn't have time to really help me. He was running Super Cat at that time in a 388 skater and running the 38 with my old man. At that time was very competitive with them and Louie. They were running, Louie had Crockett motors. They were hopped up 525s. We were still on the bone stock package. And the two boats, the 38 was always a little faster than Louie, so Pop could edge them. But then at that point, Louie was actually faster than them. So it was uber competitive. And my brother just didn't have time. So Matt DiGiacomo, who doesn't get enough love on this show, that was my old
why
navigator.
Doesn't he get enough love on this show?
He doesn't get enough love, period, man. That kid had so many different hats and played so many different roles for us. I miss him so much. But so actually, funny enough, we spin the boat out. My brother and I wind up naked. We're just wearing our lifelines and our boxers with all our clothes packed in the gimbal hole, trying to slow the water from going down. And there's Matt. My brother said to Matt, give me anything you got, right? This is the kind of kid Matt is. Matt takes off his T-shirt, takes off his shorts, takes off his boxers, his socks, his shoes, everything, and just starts throwing it in the bilge. And my brother's packing it all in there. Next thing I know, I said to Matt, I didn't even look. I just over my shoulder, I said, Matt, get on the front of the boat because we're sinking, right? So Matt's up on the front of the boat. Here he is in his lifeline, nothing, not even his boxers, hanging onto the front of the boat, teetering back and forth, trying to catch a tow rope. Dude, it was a shit show. We got back. We pulled the drive, the gimbal, the motor, the fuel tank, the bolster, cut the floor out of it to get the fuel tank out of it with 3 weeks to Inglewood, and I had no help. And it was kind of like the first time. I had always worked on my own boat and I always worked here. But I never was involved like start to finish with that boat. My brother would always jump in and help me with that. And that was like the first time where it was like, it's on you boys to get to the Worlds. Like he was chasing Teague back then. So his head was full blown in Super Cat. Yeah. And we put the whole boat back together, went down there and won the Worlds. And that was like earning my wings. So I was in the same position you were. Listen, I don't care if you bought that boat and it was 100% or if you bought that boat and it was 10%. At some point, you'd have wound up totally redoing that boat.
You're right.
And look at where you are now. Look at the piece you're in now. Look at how dominant your boat is now and your team. It was worth it, right? And it's the coolest 45 minutes your money could buy. I don't care what you go and buy. I don't care what you go and do. There's nothing like offshore.
But you know what's weird now? And I say it, and I tell him sometimes, 45 minutes isn't cutting it anymore.
I know, right?
Now it's like, I want another boat. Maybe we can race two in the same day.
I know.
And then he just stares at me and goes, what are you, an idiot?
I know.
And I'm like, no, I can't. I need more. It's like, I just need more.
I always
It doesn't make sense. I never thought it would be like this. Like, I didn't have this feeling like I had in my drag car. Like, I mean, and the drag car was every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it still would be in Philadelphia or Delaware or somewhere illegally street racing, getting chased by cops and helicopters. But this is nothing compared to it. No. Like, nothing. So if this is a drug addiction, this is what it is. This is it.
And I don't even know what you put your finger on. Like, I don't know what makes it so intriguing, but offshore is 9 times what anything else is. It's crazy. Like, I haven't pleasure boated in years. No. I'm like, I got this pleasure boat sitting there. What am I doing with it? And I look at it, and I'm like, I'm putting fenders on my trailer tonight. Yeah. Why aren't I out in a pleasure boat? Well, it's weird. There's something about it. I don't know if it's the changing racetrack. I don't know if it's just doing something that you're not supposed to be doing. Like building a fast car, like if you build a good car and you're out running your car, it feels like that's what it's supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
But you build a fast boat, and nothing about that boat wants to be going that fast. It's all on you to make it go that fast. And there's something about harnessing that. There's something about, like I always say, boats are magic. Like when you get a boat balanced right, running right, with the right horsepower, if you find the right wheel, like imagine just the difference a propeller can make. I mean,
you wouldn't think that, yeah.
Right? And then all of a sudden you nail it and you got the right setup. It's magical. There's nothing like it. It's sorcery. It's like there's nothing about this that's supposed to be doing this, yet here we are. And I don't know what makes it so awesome, but it is awesome. It's the coolest thing you can do.
Yeah, I don't think you can say it much better than that, to be honest with you. It's, I don't want to use the word controlled, but it is definitely a feeling of, like, it's extended. You go drag car racing, and it's crazy for, what,
10 seconds.
10 seconds, 8 seconds, 20 seconds, whatever.
Yeah.
It's constant in a boat race. And I've spoke to some guys. I was fortunate enough to get I went down and crewed with the Pastrana Invitational in St. Pete in February, and even talking to those guys, big name guys, Rick Johnson, pro motocross guy, Ryan Villutato, MX champion, Supercross champion. All these guys were down there, right? Parks Bonifay and these extreme athletes. They all get out of the boat, and I'm sure your brother probably has said this. They all go, "That's the craziest shit I've ever done."
Yeah.
And they go, this is, racing motocross is crazy. And, it's like the first turn, I'm a big motocross kind of junkie guy. And they say, it's like the first turn for 45 minutes.
Right.
And I said, yeah, it's exactly what it's like. And they go, it's crazy to them. And that was just one-on-one, time trial kind of racing, And yeah, we're away from the offshore, I've heard it on your other podcast. Oh, we went 40 miles and turned, and another 30 miles, and 100-mile laps, and the waves were bigger and the speeds were faster, and everything looks better through the eye of time. But the circuit racing we do now is intense.
Yeah,
and I don't think that they had that in the 70s and 80s.
No, I mean, if we're being honest,
I really don't think they did.
I always give utmost respect to the pioneers, all the guys that got us here, that brought this wonderful sport into our lives.
Yep.
But if you had to compare the offshore of then with something, right? If you wanted to find something that was close to what they did, would you say it's what we do, or would you say it's what the poker run groups are doing?
It's probably more what the poker run guys do, to be honest with you.
Right. So now when you talk to these poker run guys, they don't treat poker runs like a boat ride. That's a boat race, they think.
Unofficial boat race.
Right.
Correct.
Now, to me, in a lot of ways, that's what racing back then was long distances, card stops, checkpoints, right? I mean, we have all, right? What we do now is extremely different. And I'm so sick and tired of hearing the old crowd beat up the new guys. The new guys don't beat up the old guys. The old guys beat up the new guys, and I don't understand why. If I see one more, why do they call it offshore? Right? That ain't offshore. You're 50 feet off the beach. Well, come try it, dude. Put a boat together. I would put any one of our bracket guys up against any one of them any day of the week. And I'd put all my money behind it.
That's very well said. And I
Absolutely.
could never think of how to relate it. And that's a pretty good way with the poker run. I mean, I've thought about it and happily have had the discussion with guys, older guys and young, anyone that asks, basically. And I think in a point-to-point even style race, new guys would do just fine.
Yeah.
If you can do it, on I call it circuit racing because that's basically what it is. With turning that much, I don't think you're going to get a new guy or an old school guy to turn like the way new. I've seen the old boats. The skegs are cut off. Why? I was a mile an hour faster.
Right.
What about turning? We didn't turn. We didn't turn,
Right.
so it was good.
Well, and listen, like I've had guys on here like Charlie McCarthy, Lindsey Peary,
And they're awesome
Steve
guys.
Schoder, Billy Martin. Okay, Billy Martin's a personal hero of mine. Like, I'm not throwing shade at all.
He might be one of the few that have done it in the newer style.
And that's exactly what I was going to say.
What did he say? I didn't listen to that true transparency. I didn't listen
He
to
thinks what we do now is totally insane, and he loves it.
it. Okay.
But it's very different from what they did. And if you want to put like cool factor on things, listen, the winners of today and what we do, nobody remembers tomorrow, right? But when you take a boat, you take a 35 SIG and you run 400 miles from here to there to everywhere and back, right? You remembered that guy, right? They had real show-stopping superpower. I mean, they when you had Don Johnson, and why do you think all these celebrities and the big money and Rolex gave out the trophies to the Benihana's winners? And okay, because the feat was almost as amazing as the race. Like, just the fact that you were able to go through 10-foot seas, through the Gulf to the Bahamas, and through the Bahamas, through the flats that nobody knew. There was no Garmin. There was no Lowrance. There was no Simrad. There was no
compass on the floor.
They had a
you know?
chart and a compass and some knucklehead that was probably hammered drunk until
Matt,
4 o'clock in
Matt,
the morning.
it was Matt.
It was Big Mac back there with his map, and you didn't know where the fuck you were. And listen, is it unbelievable what they did? Yeah. Absolutely. But the fact that they want to take what we do now and compare it and then say that was better. Listen, did it appeal in that day? Did they have the fans and the attendance and the sponsors and the this and the that? Yeah, but it was a different time.
But they didn't know what happened after a quarter mile.
Right.
They were gone. Then everybody sat around and went on the windmill or the
and their
carousels and everything until they got back.
And their answer is, well, at least we had the people, even though there was nothing for them to watch. At least they were there.
That's comparing apples to carrots.
Well,
you can't. Back then, I mean, I remember. I mean, Fran definitely remembers it because he's sailed on the Ark over here. But
see, once again.
But he, back then you
do got the haircut for it.
Yeah, he does. Christopher Lloyd.
You want to touch it?
No.
I'm good. So
he, you didn't have the internet and iPhones and the Jenkinson's Pier, I'm sure, was not what it is today in 1978.
Right.
And so what'd you do for a family vacation? You went to the beach and sat on the beach. Oh, wait, some boats made a bunch of noise and there was some action at the beach. Well, that was a great day.
Yeah.
Now you see people at the beach and they're there for an hour and they leave and they get something to eat and they do whatever they're going to do. But they're going to get the attention span is just not there.
Right.
So to get a short course with action, it's really the only shot.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to be honest. And there's no way to harness. We can charge an entry fee.
Maybe we need a poker
I know we can't get political, but I see some entry fees being charged around, and I'd be curious to see the numbers of who actually paid. I know you can't comment on that, but I would be curious to see the number of who's paying that kind of money.
I'll dabble into this for a second. My thoughts on that particular.
Breaking barriers here.
My thing is, if you're going to charge somebody something, it better be for something. Okay? And I think that's where the disconnect is with all that. And people watching this won't connect these dots, but racers will. You're asking us to pay for a service that you've never been followed through on. It's never been followed through. Like, for instance, you watch their live stream and it's all one boat or it's all one class or it's all... and then you want to go in the pits and ask 55 teams from 8 different classes to pony up for something that you're just going to show them. I mean, why would you do that? Why, and so it's a little silly. I don't think the entry fee thing is needed yet. I think if we were to go to the guys and explain this is what we're trying to do, it's going to benefit you, this is how we're going to do it, lay out the plan, guys would be all about investing in their futures. But when you're asking guys to invest into something that benefits somebody else, ain't going to happen. There's too much of that in this sport. Guys are too smart for that. It's, you're dealing with a crowd here that you're not going to pull the wool over our eyes. I mean, we've been through it all. We've seen all the scams. We've seen all the shit. So I think it just went south for that reason. But as far as entry fees, you just got to go back to the good old Smitty quote. The circus doesn't, the clowns don't pay the circus pays the clowns, Yeah.
And I mean, I even mean entry fees I don't even mean racing. I mean the spectator end of things.
Oh, VIP stuff?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
Okay, I get, but I mean, what number is appropriate and what number is out to lunch? You know
what? At the end of the day, when you think about that, if they're paying it, good for them, man.
Yeah, but man, I don't know. Maybe
25
maybe
hours.
I'm just multiply that by about 20.
Yeah.
But
no.
It's a hard, to me that's a hard sell. It's like sponsorship, Sponsorship's look at the return on investment. I'm not a marketing guy. I'm an electrician by trade, but I am fascinated with marketing and how it works, and I read and research as much as I can. And the reason you don't see these big sponsorships, it's not because, you can't charge people to go to the race. I mean, look at IndyCar. IndyCar has terrible ratings, and they have every Rolex and Ferrari dealership, and there's plenty of outside money. You look at boat racing, everything's like an endemic sponsorship. It is, Was Up Racing Engines is sponsoring the Was Up boat, and the, Vels Welding is sponsoring the Rum Runner boat, and it's your own money going. WHM is sponsoring by William H. Moff Plumbing. You're not getting these outside sponsors because the market has shifted from that. It's like the return on investment isn't there. I've heard it right from the horse's mouth of some pretty high up guys and companies. They go, why did I give you $100,000? I can give Google 100 and get
and that's
$1 million in revenue.
Not only that, like back if you go like just even 15 years ago, right? You'd have to pay an exorbitant amount of money to reach the amount of people that we reach.
Yep.
Right? Fast forward 15 years, if you were asking for, let's just use a round number of $100,000, right? $50,000 into a social media campaign would reach quadruple the amount of people that we will. And it's just unfortunate that I don't think that we're the only sport feeling this. I think we were just the first one to feel this. When the marketing strategies changed, when budgets started becoming more and more, bean counters, you know what I mean? Look at our event we ran in Bimini.
Yep.
That was a beautiful event. A CEO change at the top killed it because they went back to the bean counters. And where did we, we lost $50,000 on this event, even though it probably made you 100 in the months to come of the amount of people that learned about your property, the exposure you got. I mean, all the ways you could justify it. It doesn't matter when it gets to that bean counter's desk where he says, no, we can't keep losing this.
And it's hard to quantify. How do you quantify business in the next month? They don't come in and say, the only reason I'm here is because of a boat race.
Right.
And, I feel like it's the term I always hear is it's not economics, it's egonomics.
Yep.
It's you have to have a guy that has a big company and really likes seeing his name on the side of that boat. And it might not be the best financial decision, but man, it looks good to see, my name on the side of your boat. And, winning or being successful helps that. But you see it in every form of sport, motorsports especially. The sponsorships going out. When you have like Joe Gibbs Racing having a hard time finding a banner sponsor for 37 NASCAR race, and I hate even comparing to NASCAR, but they can't find a title sponsor for a guy that's won everything, or Jimmy Johnson can't find a full sponsorship for a year. How are we going to find a sponsor?
Yeah.
And we're fortunate, very fortunate, that Pam puts in a lot of hard work, and she finds us small people that like what we're doing and gets us sponsorship, and it's beyond grateful.
Yeah. Well, and also I saw you brought on McGuire's too.
Yes.
Right? You got McGuire's on, and a lot of it too is the image. Like, and I know we're running deep into this one, but a lot of it's the image too. Like, if there was 50 teams and 40 of them were sponsored, the other 10 would find a sponsor just because everybody else has one, right?
Yep.
It's just the way it works. But when you have one team with a national sponsor and 49 other ones looking for one, the sponsors look at that and go, well, what am I missing here? Why does nobody have a sponsor? You know what I mean? Like, it's not good. It's not good visuals. It just doesn't add up right. I think a big part of the problem is the spectrum. Like, you're not going to find a $10,000, $15,000 sponsorship. You're not going to find 20. If you're shooting for 50, you're in better shape. If you're shooting for 100, you're in even better shape, because now you're getting into the tax brackets of people who won't feel that 100, right? And it's funny, like, you got to find that fine line, and then you got to have the equipment that warrants it, and you got to have the sales pitch to go with it. And then at the end of the day, what makes all of them go is who you know. If you know somebody, it happens. If you don't, it don't.
And if you know them and you get them, I think if you could get them to the race, I've heard this from guys, I won't blow out, what racers I've heard it from, but they say, they'll have a guy, look, I'm interested in sponsoring $25,000, $50,000, whatever the number might be, and they will not take their money. They say, come to a race, and at the end of the weekend, let me know if you still want to do it. And he said everyone that he's done that to, they sign the check right then and there and hand it over.
Yeah.
Because when you go to a race, and half the art's taking them to the right race, but you take them to a Michigan City where you have 20,000 spectators, and they're sitting on the boat,
You got to feel it.
and they feel it, and then there's that right. It's not really a sponsorship; it's a partnership,
Right.
and that is the direction that it's going. I don't know that we're ever going to adapt, but I would hope. I mean, it's
We
like
will. We will. There's a shift happening, and I think truthfully, what you said there is hitting the nail on the head. Offshore is more of a feeling when it comes to that stuff. It's not when you said the word earlier, quantify, right? It's hard to quantify. Well, it's not hard to quantify a feeling. You know if you like that or not.
Yep.
And you get the sponsors to the event, and I've never in my whole entire life had somebody leave a boat race and tell me that was not fun. It's always fun. Maybe not racers, like not, maybe there's disgruntled.
Fran was not happy in 2017 leaving Inglewood. 20 pizzas were consumed on the ride home. Tears were shed.
But I've never had somebody from the hometown come support or a fan come by. I've never heard a bad word. Everybody has a great time. The racers are always amazing. I don't give enough props to the racers themselves. When we go to these towns like Michigan City and you walk down the block party and you see the racers in their boats picking up these kids, putting them in the boats and showing them how it works and letting them play with the steering wheel. Meanwhile, one of these kids could bump a shifter and stretch a shift cable or leave a throttle up, and now when you fire it up, it bounces off the. I get all that, but the racers don't care. They put the kids in a boat. They show them a good time. They sign whatever they got. They take whatever pictures they want, and that is so important. That aspect of it. How many of these kids are now boat racers? Like,
Sure.
It happens. I mean, in St. Clair, I tell the story literally all the time. The kid Evan I met when he was 10 years old, who's now 17, just bought a 22-foot Wellcraft, and he wants to put it in Class 6.
There we go.
You know what I mean? Like, this happens. It happens all the time. And it's so important that the guys keep doing that because it's just... It's like another level of coolness to a sport that's already awesome.
And it's grassroots. You get to that's what makes something memorable to somebody is going, wow, I actually met the guy that drove that boat or won that race, and then afterwards I talked to him and hung out with him and
Right.
whatever. You don't where else do you get that? Name a motorsport you get that from.
Well, and we've all been here, right, where we're not wearing a race shirt and we're in a gas station at 2 o'clock in the morning getting a Slim Jim and getting ready to get on the road, right? And some guy's like, oh, man, did you see the race today? I hung out with this crew. And then they tell you this whole story as if they're part of the team, right? It leaves them with that feeling, and they buy the shirt and they wear the shirt. And, like, we haven't had What's Up shirts in probably 20 years. And I still have people walking up to us with those original What's Up shirts
They're
from
all
back
thin
in the day.
from being washed about 800 times.
They smell like shit. They got but they're like, still got it, and it's just so cool. It's just nothing else like it.
Yellow AMF jackets.
But you were making note of Pam hooking you guys up with some small sponsorships and stuff. Who do you got? Who do you got to shoot out? Who's the big one?
This is all you, man.
We don't have any big ones. I mean, it's
Who's
all
the
been,
important ones, man? Who do you got to shed some light? You got McGuire's on there, product sponsor, right?
Yeah, we pretty much have a couple people per race every time we go somewhere. So upcoming North Carolina race, we have Blades. It's a pretty big hair salon down there. And no, I don't need a haircut. I'm in this group messaging thing, and they say, wouldn't it be great? Fran's advertising for Blades, but is he going to get a haircut at the race? No, he's not.
If he wins, it's coming off.
No.
If we win, it's coming off.
And then we have Sweet Beans also there. They're part of Jack's, actually. So they're sponsoring us as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
that's awesome. Jack's is owned by Jeff
Carey.
McCann, Morehead City.
And
Free
Carey.
plug.
Yep.
Free
Yep,
plug.
yep.
I don't need plug. What are you talking about, man? Why are you
It's a
trying
joke. Jeff's a great guy.
She's a man. Brutal.
Well, that's it's a few hours, guys.
Yeah, man. That
2,
went
3.
by. Sorry about that.
Nah, man, it's cool. It's cool. Appreciate you guys
Little
coming in.
Thank
and
you very much for having us.
next stop on the OPA tour is Morehead City.
And you're not going to be there, right? You're
I'm
going
not.
shark diving with Mom?
I'm not going to be there.
What is wrong with you, man?
No way, dude.
We're
You getting on the
Mike
inside of
loves
the cage
sharks.
or
Mike
the outside?
loves sharks.
That-
Mike
that's-
loves them.
All right.
Yeah, come on.
Do we have a minute or no? Do you want to hear the
Yeah,
story?
let's hear it.
All right,
Come on.
Frank. See, you think it's like it's going to be that bad of a story. This is a pretty logical fear here. So,
I have them too,
well,
but you make fun of me.
yours are silly.
Oh, okay.
But
yeah, your
So-
fears don't matter.
I have this fear of, racing a boat, whatever, flipping it, chucked out of it, spinning them out. None of that, scary, but doesn't cross my mind. What crosses my mind is getting chucked out of the boat or going over and getting bit by a shark while being weight to be getting out of the boat. But I will be honest, when me and Robert rolled the boat in 19, rolled it over, came out of the canopy underneath, didn't cross my mind. So it must not be a real fear.
It's adrenaline.
Yeah, but normal day-to-day fear, shark attack in the water after an accident.
I got you, dude. We're okay.
Oh,
You'll
thanks.
be fine. You'll
Thanks,
be fine.
Dad.
Don't worry. The OPA dive team is trained to fend off the sharks
yeah,
for you. Don't worry.
They'll be right there.
Angel One will jump in and
Yeah.
save your ass.
Appreciate that.
But man, we'll be having a good time. I'm bummed I'm not going to be there. I'll tell you the truth. I mean, I Morehead City's going to have a special place in my heart forever. And simply because of that first event we did in 2020, I was standing on a roof, and I know I say this all the time. I've told this story probably 5 times on this podcast, but standing there, national anthems playing, air shows going, and boats are sitting there with American flags on them, getting ready to fire up, and I'm looking down at this crowd of people behind Jack's, just, a mixture of fans, staff, crew, racers, boats everywhere, and there wasn't a one soul without their hand over their heart, their hat off their head, listening to that anthem, and there was a feeling, man. Like, 2020 had been such an abysmal year on so many levels. There was so much wrong with the world while that race was going on, and to have, 5 minutes of just fresh air, man, just fresh air. Mm-hmm. And then to leave there, and we talk about this all the time, for Inglewood to get canceled literally, the day after Morehead, and then to call Jeff the day after that and go, hey, bud, we got to do this again. Inglewood just pulled. And for him and his staff to pull that off in that short amount of time, and not one thing was left out of the second one. The second one was every bit as good as the first one was in 3 weeks turnaround. I mean, I got to give it to him, man. These race sites work all year to put these events on for us. He did that in 30 days.
And can we talk about the stunt plane? I know we're running a little long here.
Well, it was
Maybe you
crazy.
can edit out some boring stuff. That stunt plane for 30 minutes, I forget the guy's name at the moment. That's the craziest dude. I watched him
From in my boat,
in
straight
the
above our
boat.
head. He was
He was doing the craziest shit I've ever seen. And we're on the intercom's on, boats off, just sitting there. And I go, well, how the hell are we supposed to go after that?
Yeah, how are you supposed to follow that?
This is going to be lame compared to that. I mean,
Yeah,
that guy
dude.
was upside down and
He did
dive
that-
bomb in the crowd. It was
He was
crazy.
upside down. It was off. It was just hovering there. And I'm like,
That's what blows my mind, right? That show was every bit of 25, 30 minutes.
That show
right?
was, if anyone's listening to this in the next week or two and you have the means to go to Morehead, it is worth going. Boat race will be awesome. The air show is worth just going.
Dude.
It is the craziest thing
He did that.
I've ever seen.
He did that thing where he went straight up until the prop couldn't pull him any higher, right? And he just shuts it off.
Coast to the ground.
25, 30 minutes, motor's hot, everything about it doesn't want to start, right? Who does that? Who goes high enough to definitely kill yourself and shut the plane off? It's like Pastrana when he jumped out of that plane with no parachute.
Yeah,
Who thinks
it
about
doesn't
this?
make sense, but man, it is a good time in
Unbelievable,
Morehead,
man.
for sure.
The knife edge thing
Yeah.
he did with the plane right on the water. I mean, dude, the guy's phenomenal. I don't know his name either. I really should learn it because he's amazing.
Yeah, I talked to some of the locals and they said, man, watch the air show. And I'm thinking, yeah, I'm sure it'll be, I've seen some, and man, watch the air show. 'cause
He's
it
buddies
was-
with Jeff. Jeff
Yep.
brings him in for
I heard
that.
he's like the second or third highest ranked stunt plane guy in the country.
Oh, he's first ranked, if you ask me.
He's crazy, yeah.
He's
I couldn't
first.
imagine seeing the first ranked guy if he's the third, because that guy's crazy.
Yeah, man. No, it's a real deal, dude. So next stop on the Rum Runner schedule, Morehead, Fort
sir.
Myers, Englewood, man.
Yep.
Good luck to both of you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You're in one of the most competitive classes in offshore, one that's near and dear to my heart, and I know a lot of the fans' heart. That's where the real racing is. We say it all the time, and it's true. So, good luck. Go home, get your shit together, and see you in 2 weeks at Morehead.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks
Be
for
safe out
listening,
there.
everybody. Offshore Live 15.